maybe we're going to get the number 1 overall pick and get Victor Wembanyama. And now they fell to 5, and I think there's a big drop-off between 1 and 2, and then a big drop-off between 3 and the rest of the draft. So we might end up looking like more of just a guy than a potential superstar, but I'm sure more on that later.
Yeah, and I actually want to get to that shortly. Actually, at 8:15, I want to just go through preferred prospects. Now that it's real, this is real. You're picking at 5. Troy actually talked about it also in his presser that he'd be, quote, open to shopping the pick if there obviously is a trade offer. You can't just go trade the pick. Somebody has to come take the pick. So at least Troy's willing to entertain some offers. I want to get into that, but first, Sam, you saw the article, or I guess the news that came out, that if the Pistons landed Victor Wembanyama, they would have went all out on pursuing Monty Williams. And from Monty Williams' point of view, I mean, this is a guy who, again, still has $21 million owed to him for that Suns job, right? He's fired, so he's not really under pressure to take a job at all. He could technically take a year off, still get paid, and then choose the pick of the litter next year. If I'm Monty Williams, I'm going to a contender, Sam, regardless. It has nothing to do with Detroit being a bad destination, but if you're Monty and you got the 76ers job, the Bucks job opening up, isn't that a no-brainer?
Well, it's weird because this is one of those years where some coaches got fired that you're just kind of scratching your head. Monty Williams in particular, I don't think he should have ever been fired. But also 2 of the teams that throughout most of the year were 2 of the top teams in the East, the Milwaukee Bucks and the Philadelphia 76ers, they have job openings now. And obviously if I'm Monty Williams, those are much more attractive options than the Detroit Pistons right now. But when I heard that the Pistons were going to go all in on Monty Williams if they would have gotten the number 1 overall pick, it was a little bit of a double nut punch.
Yeah.
If I'm just being honest. I learned about it when I was on Big D Energy yesterday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., Woodward Sports Network, and that's exactly what I said at the time. Thank you. Now I feel even worse.
And for everybody watching on YouTube, I know we were a little delayed with the stream, but just to recap, Adam's out, unfortunately, today. He's not feeling well. So Sam Flannel's filling in. He should be back tomorrow. Again, if you're watching on WoodwardSports.com, don't forget, check out the articles. We got merchandise coming as well. We got a lot of talented writers. Matt Broder's been pumping out articles as well. And go check that out. And if you're not listening live, which is okay, you go back and listen to the audio via Spotify, Apple Podcasts, leave a review. Leave a 5-star review for the show. Support the boys. But I got to just speak on this for a second with Monty because, listen, I love Monty. I think he's a great head coach. I mean, you saw the impact he made when he first got to Phoenix, right? They were a team that won in the teens. He got there. They immediately won 30 games, and you saw the progression. Won Coach of the Year, took the team to the finals. Yes, there's been some down points as well. Even that Mavericks series at home, getting blown out on the floor is never a great look, or following up this year and losing in the fashion they did. I wouldn't necessarily blame Monty Williams. I don't think he should have been fired, to be honest with you. I'm surprised the Suns did it. Curious who they hire. I mean, it'd be crazy to think in a world where the Bucks hire Monty Williams and the Suns hire Mike Budenholzer.
Well, that's what happens.
What in the hell?
That's what happens when you have 2 coaches who are very much proven lose their jobs, even when their respective teams had a lot of success. Obviously, there was a playoff flameout by the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round, and the Phoenix Suns, they just went out in 6, and this was the year that they traded for Kevin Durant. Mm-hmm. And Monty Williams, unfortunately, with the Phoenix Suns, as much success as he has brought them, he has had a couple of vintage Doc Rivers-esque playoff I wouldn't say chokes, although Game 7 at home losing by 35, that was terrible. And even the finals, they had a 2-0 series lead and then lost the next 4. They had a championship right in their grasp. And I'm not saying it's Monty Williams' fault, but those are the type of missed opportunities that are going to haunt you basically for the rest of your career, especially if Monty Williams is never able to get over the hump for the rest of his career as a coach. But at the same time, I mean, Monty Williams, when he's available, he's definitely going to be a sought-after prospect. And it still doesn't change the fact that if I'm the Detroit Pistons, that is a guy that I would want. I would still make the call.
Right.
Why not make the call? But at the same time, you go from potentially getting Victor Wembanyama, a franchise-changing guy, to, I don't know, Cam Whitmore, Jarris Walker, a Thompson twin. I'm no disrespect to those guys.
Not quite the same.
That's not a lot of juice anymore. I'm not as excited.
It's fair to say.
They're all also well aware that they're not the same.
Yeah. Like,
So I don't think they'll take offense.
It's like what Terry, and I keep repeating this, Terry said this on the draft show, it seems like at this point, Victor's so hyped up that everybody else in the draft just stinks. That's what it seems like, but that's not the case necessarily. I want to get to the WoodwardSports.com chat thread because people are tuning in. And by the way, just to recap, both the lotteries, the NHL and the NBA, I think those events combined killed Adham because he is not here today. And again, yesterday he was not feeling it either. I want to read Mr. Ray's comment here because I actually agree with him. He said, Bud had 4 to 5 years to win with the Bucks. He barely scraped out one championship with Giannis, Middleton, Holiday as a core. Hey, you know ball, Mr. Ray. That again, Budenholzer, great coach, but when you have that kind of core in the East, they were clearly the best team. But again, the 1 year where Chris Middleton was hurt, technically, I think they would have made the finals once again, but it is what it is. Injuries do happen, so you have to find a way to overcome them. Sebastian, Kevin Ali clearly going to be coach. We'll see, and that's something that we'll talk to Kool-Aid later in the show in the second hour. Brandon Dent, the Woodward Sports beat reporter for the Pistons. I want to ask him a couple questions about that because Kevin Ali at this point seems to be the unquestioned favorite. I know they might do their due diligence on Monty, but I don't know, Sam. You're seeing more and more reports. It seems like it's Kevin Ali's job to lose. But JB, I want to get your thoughts on it. Monty Williams, Pistons, they would have aggressively pursued him if they landed Victor. Number one, your thoughts on Monty Williams. But again, how you feeling now 2 days after the lottery?
I mean, it still sucks. It's still terrible after the lottery. But, I think we're kind of starting to settle down and honestly starting to get an idea of where this Piston organization wants to go with this pick, whether that's trade up. As we know, there's rumors of Portland trying to trade out of that third pick, but then again, it's like, what are you going to give up? I don't think a simple 5-for-3 swap is gonna help out Portland all that much, or if they would even be willing to want to do that. But Monty Williams, it would be nice, but now given the fact that Pistons aren't in that position to draft Victor Wembanyama, I don't think this is a real big landing destination for him right now. He wants to move on to a team that has those championships aspirations for him set out and planned. So as you said, I think Kevin Ali, is just gonna have to do for now. It's gross for me to even say that. Like, I don't even like saying that.
And can we all agree that no matter who's the coach, Sam Flannel, JB, Gabby, Alex, whoever's the coach, you guys can be the coach. The expectations don't change, right? We all have preferences. I have preferences. Sam, you have preferences. But we're not in these interviews talking to these guys. So if Kevin Ali's the coach, if he's who Troy favors and he loves Kevin Ali, that's fine. But my expectations do not change. Kevin Ali must take this team and at least contend for the play-in because regardless on whoever it is, they will be held accountable if it doesn't happen.
That is fair. The one thing I will say about Kevin Ali is it's risky when you're a team that for the last 4 years has basically won, I think they've won 80 games in 4 years as a franchise. They've been miserable. An absolute miserable cellar-dwelling franchise. And you would hire a guy that... I mean, that's just true. One. That is very, very true. One of my flannel Samisms. Hiring a coach that has no experience being on an NBA bench as a coach at any level, that's risky. That's one of those decisions where if it doesn't work out, Troy Weaver is probably fired. And that's why I've pushed back on Kevin Ali so much, because at least with a guy like Charles Lee or Jaron Collins, they have experience being high-level assistants on championship teams.
Right.
Hell, that's why I would give a call to Mike Budenholzer, why I would still give a call to Monty Williams, because one of them is a championship-winning head coach, and one is a head coach that took the Phoenix Suns to the NBA Finals. Very, very impressive stuff. Kevin Ali, I'll tell you what, he gets a lot of credit for that UConn Finals run, but I think that was more Shabazz Napier. And you see a lot of NIT appearances littered into his resume at UConn and some early tournament exits. So that's be careful, because that's one of those where it could backfire. If it goes bad, that will be looked at as just a terrible, terrible decision. Where with the others, there's more plausible deniability, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because at least you have other factors you take into it. Like, for example, you hire Charles Lee or Jaron Collins, you can at least say, well, they come from a respected staff, they've won championships, this is the best. But for Kevin Ali, like you said, no NBA experience on a bench as a coach, only a collegiate coach who was with Overtime Elite. And again, like, what do I think of Kevin Ali? I think he, again, with the Napier tournament and the way he played, he obviously can work with guards. But I'm not a huge fan of taking college coaches. I've never really been. I like guys that are proven, at least at an NBA level, who have been on an NBA bench. But again, like I said, I don't care who it is. It could be Adham Beydoun. You still got to contend for the play-in. I like this comment here, and this kind of sums it up. Scott says, Adham, day-to-day Beydoun.
Oh.
That's very fair. Clown Copter says, give me Coach Wallace, Ben or Sheed, don't care. Imagine that. Imagine Rasheed. I know Rasheed was on the assistant coach for the Lakers, and that kind of just fizzled out. But, man, when Drummond was here, that's all I ever heard. Bring Rasheed back. Let him coach Drummond. I would love Rasheed Wallace as a head coach, man. He wouldn't hold back from anything. But you wouldn't like Ben Wallace as a head coach. I know that.
Well, I mean, I don't like players who are undeservedly in the Hall of Fame being head coaches of the. I'm just saying.
Yeah, there you go. I set him up for that. That's on me, fellas. That's on me. Alex says Adham would be too sick to coach. Possibly.
Yeah.
Mr. Ray says Ollie was not with the Thunder. He spent time at UConn and got fired after multiple failed seasons. That's facts. Like it's not even a shot at Ali. That's just the facts. Honolulu Blue Sparty, shout out to him. He says, if it doesn't work out, he's fired. We should be glad to be moving on to someone better. And again, when you look at this head coaching search, and it makes you think, though, because you look at Ime Udoka to the Rockets, and they sold him on Victor Wembanyama, and it didn't work out. And now the Pistons have kind of waited. It kind of makes sense that this report comes out because they're waiting to see if they get that number one pick. Because if they got that number one pick, you have your pick of the litter, probably of all the coaches.
Shoot, I'll tell you what. If you're Ime Udoka, I think there's a little bit of regret going to the Rockets because if you remember last year, Jalen Green was mostly healthy, Sengun was mostly healthy, Kevin Porter Jr. was mostly healthy, and they still were terrible.
Yeah.
At least with the Detroit Pistons, they have the Cade Cunningham injury excuse. Jabari Smith was also healthy. He just had a horrendous rookie season. So if I think the Pistons is actually a more attractive job at this point. The Rockets, I'm sure Ime Udoka is like, what the hell did I get into?
Well, I'll tell you what. The Pistons, we knew what we saw this year. Terrible defense. And I got the defense that could fix all of those problems and more next season. That's Guardian Alarm. Allow Guardian Alarm to offer you customized solutions from real experts. Their professional technicians take the time to recommend security and automation solutions specific to your needs. They also have 24/7 professional monitoring and technology backed by people. Call 1-800-STAY-OUT for more information.
Introducing the Planet Fitness Guide to getting that post-workout glow. Step 1. What's your why? More epic energy? Better sleep? Blow off steam? Step 2. Join Planet Fitness for just $10 a month and get moving in our clean and spacious clubs. Step 3. Bask in that post-workout glow. Join Planet Fitness today for just $10 a month.
Join today at any of the 50-plus Detroit area locations.
We don't like to brag that we are the toughest sports network in Detroit, but we do have a guy named Darren McCarty on our side.
Lemieux and McCarty, who've had a good knockdown drag up. There they go, right on the whistle. They were talking to one another.
Woodward Sports.
Welcome back to the Morning Woodward Show at woodwardsports.com. Thanks for tuning in. Please be sure to check out our articles going on our website. Plenty of coverage from my counterpart, the Lions beat writer Matt Broder, as well as great merchandise that was just updated yesterday. So check out those new arrivals. And if you aren't following us on social media, please be sure to check that out too at Woodward Sports.
And we're off and running here, 16 minutes into the Morning Woodward Show on woodwardsports.com. It is Thursday morning, and it's pretty nice out here in Birmingham, Michigan. And Sam Flannel, I have an interesting question I'm going to pose to you, JB. I want to get everyone's thoughts on this, too. The Portland Trailblazers are shopping that number 3 overall pick, which, again, I kind of saw coming. I felt like Portland in that position. Will they just stay put and take Brandon Miller? If I'm Portland, I'm going to try and at least trade back, get a similar-esque player. Maybe they don't need it. I mean, they're going to probably re-sign Jeremy Grant, but they're shopping that pick. And I'm going to give you 2 scenarios, okay? In the chat can chime in as well. Just put a poll in the chat. Trade up to Portland or trade out. Not trade back, meaning trade the pick and shop the pick for whatever you can get for it. And Sam, I'll start with you. You're Troy Weaver. You're picking at 5. You have 2 options to trade up to 3 or trade out of that pick completely and see who you can get. Now, I don't have any names for you. What would you do if you're Troy Weaver?
I would probably at least attempt to. I'm not saying it's going to be successful. I know that's not the question. I would attempt to trade up to 3 just because I think a guy like Brandon Miller could be a huge help to this team. I think that he's a wing. He's a good shooter. He obviously had a damn good year at Alabama besides for that tournament flameout. But in a lot of ways, he's not the unicorn that Victor Wembanyama is, but he is exactly what the Pistons need. He's exactly that missing piece, and you win with wings in this league, especially wings that can shoot and play D and create their own shot, which Brandon Miller can. And if you were to trade up to 3, I think he would be available. I think whoever's picking 2, Charlotte is going to take Scoot Henderson. I would attempt to trade up to 3 because I think there is a huge drop-off between a guy like Brandon Miller and even Cam Whitmore, Jarris Walker, the Thompson twins, Taylor Hendricks, whoever you could get at 5. I would attempt to trade up to 3.
What about you, JB? What are you thinking?
At 3, I'm honestly trading out of that 5th pick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it's no disrespect to Flannel Sam, but I don't think Charlotte is gonna pick Brandon. I don't think Charlotte is gonna pick Scoot. Excuse me.
Yeah.
But I think they're gonna take Brandon Miller just to give LaMelo Ball just a complimentary piece out there on the floor. So I don't think he's gonna be there at 3. That's my only fear, and that's the only reason why I would sit here and trade out of that 5th pick.
And it's so interesting, too, because last year we had a similar discussion. You picked at 5, and Jaden Ivey was the guy, but you didn't think he'd be there potentially. Things like this happen where players before the draft get pretty much already booked to where they're going to go. Like Brandon Miller, for example. I know although he's widely considered a unquestioned top 3 pick, I do believe there's always a chance with especially somebody like Brandon who has off-the-court things going on, that there's a chance he could slide to 5. Now, if he falls to 4 and Houston's sitting there, Houston wants, in my opinion, would rather get a point guard, maybe one of the Thompson twins, or dare I say if Scoot's there. I don't think he'll be there at all. But it's all about what team and what kind of player they're looking for. If Brandon Miller falls to you, there you go. But I think in these 2 scenarios, I would say if I had to pick between trade up to 3 or trade the pick, I would probably say trade the pick because I actually agree with you, JB, because I don't think Brandon will be there, and I think Scoot's a hell of a player, but that's not someone that I think the Pistons are trading up to go get, even though you could argue he's the second best player in the draft. The fit, though, that's my problem. And again, people might say, well, Jeff, why are you arguing fit on a team that won 17 games? Yeah, I mean, you got a point. I just don't think you need another point guard, especially with Cade and Ivy. They're going to be back. They want to at least build chemistry this year. Imagine throwing another guard in there. And now all 3 of them have to learn to play together. It's a lot more complicated. But I would say trade the pick. Now, I don't know what player you'd go get. That's the problem. Now, if we had a list of players that were available, I could get there, but I don't. If you say Julius Randle, we're ending there. We're not going any farther. No to Julius Randle. I know. Yeah, thank you, Kawhi. It's laughing. It's a laughing matter to bring up Julius Randle. You could bring up, Jaylen Brown, which, again, the Celtics can't afford 2 Supermax players, but, Sam, I don't know if Jaylen Brown will be dealt. I think the Celtics are going to do everything in their power possible to keep him. And if they can't, they're going to get a haul for him for a guy like Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, and the thing about the Celtics is I think a lot of the reports of their demise, including by myself, have been over-exaggerated. They could very much still win the NBA championship, and you think they're dealing Jaylen Brown as defending champions.
Right.
I would sincerely doubt that. And Julius Randle, man. Julius Randle, when we talk about playoff chokers, Julius Randle should be way up high at that list. Did you know in his first playoff run, I couldn't believe I was reading this.
Oh, geez, he's got the stats.
He shot less than 30% from the floor.
Wow.
Not this year. This year he upped those numbers up to mid-30s. Ooh. But his first one was under 30% as a big man. So any of this Julius Randle talk, I want to put the kibosh to this now, because obviously he was a regular season dynamo this year and then 2 years ago with a terrible year sandwiched in between. But no, hell no to Julius Randle. I don't want players who just gag in the playoffs at such a biblical level.
So Haunted Danny, and this is WoodwardSports.com chat thread. I'm going to get the people's thoughts on it. Haunted Danny says Bojan in the 5th pick for the 3rd pick with the Blazers. That's the question you have to ask, too, is trading up 2 spots, is it that big of a drop-off? That's the question I have. Now, if Scoot's there, you could argue that. Brandon, you could as well. But to give up Bojan, I mean, Bojan's a 16, 17-point-per-game guy who can shoot the hell out of the ball. The Pistons are going to need that. But, again, there's a possibility. Let's see. Chili says KP and a swap for Bojan. Kristaps Porzingis? Is that what you're implying? I'm good. I'll pass on that. Mr. Ray says, Celtics will move heaven and earth to keep JB if they win a title. Yeah, you're spot on, Mr. Ray. I mean, even if they do end up, moving apart from Jaylen Brown, they're going to want a haul for him. Blade says, the 5th pick only gets us Jordan Poole or Tyler Hero. Yeah, I'm good. I don't want either of those players. Great players, but no, I'm okay. Honolulu Boost Party, in my opinion, if you can't hit 80% of free throws and 35% from 3, stay out. Stay out. I'm with you. Let's see. Blade says Blazers draft Scoot and trade Dame or Simmons. And Simons. That's actually one of the things I thought about too is Portland, even if they stay put, if I'm Portland and you take Scoot, him and Damian Lillard, it's pretty dangerous. But it kind of does remind me, though, of reminiscence of what they had before. They had 2 small guards, C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard. They traded C.J. Now you go get Scoot, who has more upside, but still he's 6'2". And you can't teach height. He's 6'2". He's not getting any bigger.
No, you can't. Maybe the Portland Trailblazers are finally going to move off from Damian Lillard and let him pursue a championship somewhere. Unfortunately, he's one of those guys that stayed loyal, I suppose, but isn't going to have much to show for it in terms of team success because he is not a number one. Let me get to this comment from the Booner Sports Show, one of my favorites. Did we forget that Julius Randle averaged 25 points per game and 10 rebounds per game and was an all-star? He has only been to the playoffs 2 times in his career. Yes, Booner, and in those 2 times he has averaged 17 points on, let me see, 34% shooting and 28% from 3 while only 9 rebounds a game. He is one of the biggest playoff underperformers in the history of the NBA. And I get it. People are going to say, we haven't even sniffed the playoffs in a couple of years. In many years. I saw this in the chat too, but it just, why did Julius Randle right now? Does he really move the needle that much? And he's coming off of these terrible playoff performances. I don't like it. It's left a really, really bad taste in my mouth, and I don't think it moves the needle that much for Detroit.
Yeah, and for Julius Randle too, listen, you can talk all you want about on the court and what he does with his play. But Julius Randle, you see more often than not him getting in, fights with his teammates, arguments on the court, on the bench. Like Julius as a human being, I'm not a huge fan of. You see more drama with Julius Randle with him and his teammates or him with arguing with officials. He's just not somebody I would want to bring. And then you talk about on the court and he's terrible in the playoffs. You talk about regular season numbers. Okay, great. But we want to make the playoffs and go on playoff runs. And I'm not paying Julius Randle, keep paying him in a max contract. To me, he's not a max contract player. Good player. Just I don't want him on my team. I'm good. A little overrated to me, if I'm being real with you.
Oh, I mean, obviously overrated. I mean, he made All-NBA, which I guess he might have deserved it, but in the playoffs he underperformed so much. If I'm Jalen Brunson, I am pissed at Julius Randle because Jalen Brunson showed up. I think a lot of the NBA fan base owes Jalen Brunson an apology. He showed up with New York, and he showed up in the playoffs.
Well, that's also a concern because he showed up and was their best player, over Randle pretty quickly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Are we just going to ignore that? Statistically, you'll go to Randle, but without Jalen Brunson, they're not doing anything they did this year.
They're not making the playoffs.
Yeah, he's the most important player on that team. It's very obvious.
I have a question. What is the timeline for the new coach? When do you think we're going to get an answer on that, and will that weigh into this decision of who they're going to pick at 5?
I think it will answer the first question. It have to be before the NBA draft, so probably the next couple weeks. It might even be quicker than that. And to answer the second question, I do think it could, because if they get Kevin Ali, again, overtime elite, he has experience there, and there's 2 players coming out from overtime elite too, the Thompson twins. So I'm not saying he'll influence the pick, but having Kevin Ali, he'll at least be like, hey, let me give my 2 cents on 2 guys I saw up close.
For sure.
So I think he could, but there's a reason they waited till after the lottery, and I think it was because of the Shams report, which was if they got the number 1 pick, they went all in on Monty. So we'll see. I think it'll happen pretty quickly, though.
Yeah, it's like one of those situations where you're in the car, you're riding with your parents. It's like, Mom, can we have Monty Williams and Victor Wembanyama? No, son, we have Amon Thompson and Kevin Ali at home.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait for this draft.
I'm not bitter.
It's gonna get very interesting. Honolulu Busparty said something I want to get to. Jeff, do you like Taylor Hendricks? I see a lot of upside and good shooter. Why not talk more of him? Trust me, I'm going to talk a lot about Taylor Hendricks. He's probably my favorite prospect right now at 5. To be honest with you, has a lot of things I look for, and we'll talk about him at a later time. I don't want to do breakdowns this quickly. We still got plenty of time before the draft. But from Half Court Woodward Pistons, we'll be breaking down all these players, and I'm going to be honest with you. I'm liking Taylor Hendricks more and more every time I watch him. I mean, he's a stud. Sappy Johnson says Cam Whitmore, if he's there at 5, it's a no-brainer. I mean, Cam Whitmore, too. I know people like Cam a lot. I wouldn't mind it, and I like Cam, too. But, again, I want size, length. I know people look at athleticism. I look at shooting, size, length. Those are my boxes, right? How tall are you? What's your wingspan? Can you shoot the ball? Can you defend? Taylor Hendricks checks a lot of those off for me, and he's got some athleticism, too. They did measurables on Cam Whitmore. Good player. 6'5.5", like without shoes. So again, a little smaller. Had some comparisons to Sadiq, which he's better than Sadiq. He's a freshman.
I can't talk anymore about shoes or the feet or anything after Big D Energy yesterday.
Yeah. By the way, Victor Wembanyama, his feet. I didn't even know that picture existed until I watched the show yesterday.
It did be there.
Yeah, that man. My goodness.
That
D-Mac's right. His big toe did look like a thumb.
That was ridiculous. Yeah, and now it's gone pretty viral, which I can definitely understand. I don't know if I've ever seen a human body part look quite like that. But then again, have we ever seen a Victor Wembanyama? He's a unicorn. He's a one of one, at least when it comes to his measurables and his physical traits.
When Spencer flashed that picture at me before Big D Energy yesterday, I literally thought it was like a Renaissance painting of like some type of half human that had a disease. Like that's what I thought it was. I was like, that's not an actual picture of somebody's feet.
Yeah, no, I couldn't believe it. Those are some big feet for a big guy. But what about a big boy? How about that? What about a big boy? Especially when you need something to go to after you find out the Pistons aren't at picking number 1 and you need to go eat your feelings away. I got the place for you. It's Big Boy. Go check it out. Strawberry Fest is back. You can try the classic breakfast items, or if you're not feeling breakfast, you can try the strawberry bacon chicken wrap or cool off with their refreshing summer splash salad. But you can get dessert as well. Deep fried vanilla Oreos, strawberry hot fudge cake, and more at Big Boy.
How would you like to win not one, but 2 vehicles of your choice? One for you and one for your wife, your girlfriend, or your best bud. Get to Lady Jane's today for an award-winning haircut and automatically enter for your chance to win. Courtesy of Les Stanford Buick GMC of Ferndale. Lady Jane's, open 7 days a week, walk in anytime. It's wicked awesome.
Since the dawn of moving people, Chevrolet has led the way. The world of transportation is changing. At Feldman Chevrolet, we are leading the charge forward. With every electric vehicle, every mile traveled, one Feldman at a time. The company that puts more Chevys on Michigan roads is now the #1 name for Chevy electric vehicles.
For Detroit, by Detroiters. Welcome to the Woodward Sports Network.
Welcome back to the Morning Woodward Show at woodwardsports.com. Thanks for tuning in. If you're watching at woodwardsports.com, check out all the other things that we have to offer. And tune back in at 11 a.m. for Big D Energy, 2 p.m. for Ermanni and Edwards with Maz, and 5 p.m. for the heavyweights. If you're listening wherever you listen to your podcast, download and leave a 5-star review. If you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe.
We're back here halfway through the first hour, excuse me, of the Morning Woodward Show here on the Woodward Sports Network. And Sam Flannel joining us and filling in for Adham Beydoun, who is out, unfortunately. I think the NHL and the NBA lottery absolutely killed that man. He's not feeling well. And here we go. We got a lot to get into. We're going to move to Lions. Because you see that video that came out, the Buccaneers, the inside, they do the little draft coverage. And I'll read some of the quotes here. But Jack Campbell almost went to the Buccaneers.
Ooh.
What do you think about that?
Well, you kept hearing a lot of people say that Jack Campbell, nobody was going to take him and that the Lions severely overreached for him, or maybe they could have got him at 34. Well, that looks like that's not the case. And if they really wanted Jack Campbell, the Lions, they got him at 18. And if they wouldn't have taken him at 18, maybe he wouldn't have been there. And oddly enough, that makes me feel even better about the pick, even though as time has gone on, I continue to feel better about it than when it first happened.
Yeah, and I think initially, too, I think Jameer was more the concern for a, quote, reach. But even after Jameer, Brad went to the press conference and said there were teams that were going to take Jameer if the Lions didn't take him. And here we go. After they take Jack Campbell, the Buccaneers were reportedly favoring to take him. They had Cansey and Jack Campbell as their two guys. They were willing to take either one. It was basically, let's see what Detroit does, and we'll take the other player. If they would have took Cansey, Bucs would have took Jack Campbell. So again, Jack Campbell went at 18, and Adam talked about this the day after. He didn't think it was a reach. He was the only linebacker that was graded in the first round. So by default, it's not really a reach. If you take the guy you want, if you would have went in the 20s, but instead you take him at 18, to me that's not a reach. And I want to read this quote by Todd Bowles. That was, during the video that they recorded for the Buccaneers in the war room. He said, quote, "We still had two guys that we really liked on the board, with Cansey being one of them." Buccaneers coach Todd Bowles stated after the fact, and this is MSN.com, by the way. He said, "We had a shot either way Detroit picked, and then when Detroit picked the other way, we picked a linebacker, or they picked a linebacker. We had a chance to get Cansey. That was pretty good." Now, Cansey is Adam's crush.
Adopted son,
we could call him. And although the defensive tackle position was addressed in the third round with Broderick Martin, which, again, is excited to see him. I think there's a lot of upside there with him. Jack Campbell and Jameer Gibbs in the first round. The night of the draft, seeing the reaction of all Lions fans, the overreaction, questioning Brad Holmes, yada, yada, yada. Lions fans. And then you wait days after, and we're able to sit on it and really process it. It makes more sense as the days go on. Because at the end of the day, in the first round, you got two guys that are going to be able to immediately impact your football team day one on a team that is expected to win their division.
You would certainly think so, of course. Obviously, we're not going to know until we see them on the field playing actual games. And I think a lot of that, too, is that if you're a Lions fan, even if you're not happy with the picks, at some point you have to get to the acceptance stage and just hope for the best for these guys. And yeah, there's a lot to like. I think everyone that I've talked to at this network pretty much agrees that Jack Campbell has a very, very good chance of being the best linebacker on this team from day one. And it's funny the different circumstances he's going into in Detroit versus what he would have been walking into in Tampa Bay, who still has Levante David. They still have Devin White, although Devin White is, I think there have been trade rumors with him as well.
He's got 1 year left.
Yeah, absolutely. But that would have been just completely different. He's going to a situation in Detroit where he actually has the chance to be the best linebacker of the team from day one, to be groomed into being the captain of this defense, which I think he is capable of. And the linebacking position, it was a point of need.
Yes, it was. Ryan J, WoodwardSports.com says, "Hey, Jeff, man, I miss Fish, but seriously, JB has the best sound drops ever. Cracks me up every time."
Yes, he does.
Shout out to JB for that. Funky says, I'd be willing to bet if he went to Tampa Bay, no one would have said anything. Seriously, no one cried about Devin White or Isaiah Simmons or a bunch of other off-ball linebackers taken in the first round over the last few years." Yeah, it is a little more significant that Detroit takes him, because I know you have Brad Holmes, but there's always going to be question marks surrounding that. Yeah, if Tampa took Jack Campbell, I don't think anybody would be questioning it.
To be fair, though, I think Devin White and Isaiah Simmons were higher-ranked prospects, and they did more things in terms of blitzing and making big splash plays. And with Jack Campbell, his big strength is that he's a tackling machine.
Yes.
It's not flashy.
And I guess also Simmons and White both went, the top 5?
Yeah.
So I guess there's the difference. Top 5 picks versus somebody who was the 18th overall pick. A little different there. But JB, you saw the report now. Buccaneers would have taken Jack Campbell. And we knew after the draft that other teams were interested in Jameer Gibbs. Lions got both of them. They were criticized. And now looking back, JB, they're actually pretty smart.
I was going to say, yeah, looking back now, it kind of seems that Brad Holmes was ahead of everyone else in the draft, and just picking these guys that at first we thought were just nobodies. We thought that we had messed up that first round of the draft. And you could see it in all the Lions fans' faces when we were at Fifth Avenue for the draft party. But still, now looking back on this, like, hey, you know what? These guys are pretty good. They should be all right. Honestly, for fans right now, I think we're all in that honeymoon phase where it's like, hey, at first we didn't really see too much out of these guys, but now it's like we're accepting it, as Flannel Sam said, and we just can't wait to see what they can bring to this team and improve this team, and especially how far they can go in their rookie season as well, too. So hats off to Brad Holmes, man.
Yeah,
Genius.
no question. And Gabby, we defended Brad right after the draft about this, kind of talking about his mindset. He explained it to the people, and people still questioned it. But now with this report coming out, what does this mean for Brad Holmes?
It means that Brad Holmes' draft is just continuing to age like a fine wine. If we all tasted the grapes right on that night, and everyone had that awful look on their face because the grapes that you use for wine are not going to taste good off the vine. But as this time has gone along, everyone's loving it more and more. Everyone is absolutely loving this draft with more information, with more time, with this previous rookie camp happening over the last weekend and hearing how explosive all these players are. Everyone's loving this draft, and I think this just adds to that.
And just to address this comment too, Kid Keith says, WoodwardSports.com, sorry, quote, interested in Gibbs doesn't mean take the guy at 12. Sorry. Well, Keith, the report was, and Brad talked about this when GMs called him after he picked him at 12, there were teams after the Lions that were interested in Gibbs. Now, how true that is, I don't know. But the fact that there were teams interested in Gibbs and he's a first-round running back, if they like him, they take him. So, I don't know. If you still don't believe in the pick, that's fine. Taking a running back in the first round, many people don't believe in that philosophy at all. No question on who it is, which is fair. But at least try to understand that with Gibbs, putting him in a box as a running back, you're of course going to hate the pick. But if you try to at least understand that he's more than that and a complete offensive weapon, it's a little easier to digest. But, Sam, some people with running backs in the first round, they'll never get over it.
Well, time will tell. The reality is, at some point, Jahmyr Gibbs has to be a guy that is as productive as, say, an Alvin Kamara or a Christian McCaffrey, or else it's not going to be good positional value, at least for him as an individual player. I know I bring up Alvin Kamara and Christian McCaffrey as not necessarily comps, but, well, Alvin Kamara more, yes, but as people that Jahmyr Gibbs will have to live up to in terms of both being an effective rusher and pass catcher out of the backfield. And sometimes I cringe, like I know that's lofty, but it's really not lofty. When you're the 12th overall pick as a running back, you're expected to be a superstar at one point. One of those guys that produces at the same level as like a Todd Gurley. I mean, they're different kind of players, and I think people need to remember that. Because we all know he's not going to be RB1 in year one. It's going to be David Montgomery. But at some point, he's going to have to take over that role. And at the very least in year one, show that dynamic playmaking ability that you saw at Alabama. Be that guy who is very, very effective catching passes out of the backfield, especially with Jameson Williams gone. Maybe Jahmyr Gibbs will be that guy that offers that speed and explosive element for the Detroit Lions offense. So I still, as much as I don't like lamenting over the past, I still understand why people are still skeptical because they haven't seen Jahmyr Gibbs on the field, and he's a 12th overall pick running back. But like we all think, he is way more than just a running back. And if he reaches his ceiling as a pass catcher, I mean, that would be the ideal situation for the Lions. He could be an 1,000-yard receiver if he reaches his ceiling as a pass catcher.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And Kid Keith, WoodwardSports.com says, interested in taking him in the first round or just interested? I think we could have gotten him at 34. No way you would have got him at 34. That's the problem, too, is when we do so many of these mock drafts, our brain is washed into thinking that these guys will be there. But in reality, they wouldn't. Jahmyr Gibbs, there's no way he would have been there at 34. There's no way. Now, again, if you would have slid to maybe 20s or late teens, there's a debate there. I don't have enough information, but no way he's there in the second round. Let's see. Some of these other comments I want to get to. MF Jester, Jeff, how long have you had the ink? Got it last week, last Friday. I got my tattoo. Ryan says, got a locker room full of guys who love ball. Spot on, Ryan. Demetrius says, Brad Holmes got the players they wanted. Doesn't matter where you take them, especially if they work out. I don't think, and Adham went through this too, and this is why I love Adham, because he went through all the times where players were taken late in the draft or late in the first round, or maybe teams have reached on guys, but they were their guys. They were productive players, and they might have thought they were overdrafted, but they were still their guys. But then everyone has a problem with Jahmyr Gibbs. It's like, if that's Brad Holmes, if that's the highest rated player on his board at the time, and he takes him, you got to just wait and see. And I know that's the cop-out answer, but if Jahmyr Gibbs turns into what you just said, his ceiling of a 1,000 guy, an Alvin Kamara-esque running back, I mean, although, again, people might argue it'll never be worth the 12th overall pick because even Alvin Kamara wasn't drafted in the first round. you can at least understand it. He's going to impact a football team day one who's projected to contend for their division and win their division and possibly win a playoff game. So we'll see this year. But Sam, what do you think about that? That he would have been there at 34.
I don't think he would have been there at 34. And the thing is about Jahmyr Gibbs, and you kind of hit it on the head, if he reaches his ceiling as an individual player and or he impacts winning in a positive way, nobody is going to give a damn where he was picked. But at the same time, if he doesn't, I don't want to even put that energy into the universe, but if he doesn't, then the scrutiny will be on Brad Holmes as like a running back at 12, and he didn't really live up to it. But I have a lot of faith in Jahmyr Gibbs, particularly in this offense, that at the very, very least, he is going to be an impactful player on a team that wins. Is that worth number 12 overall? Maybe, maybe not. But I think we all agree he will make a tremendous impact, and this team is going to win the division. So at the end of the year, I don't think anybody is going to give a damn that Jahmyr Biggs was 12th overall. Gibbs, my bad.
No, nobody will. And Greg says, WoodwardSports.com, who do you guys think will be the best rookie for us this season? You know what? I'll answer that question right after the break when we come back, because great question. We're going to get into that and more of the NFC North talk, which Dalvin Cook being cut by the Minnesota Vikings, potentially. What does it mean for the Vikings? Me and Adam go at it all the time. I still believe the Vikings are the second best team in the division. Does this change things? I'll get into it, but before I do that, I got to tell you about our friends over at Swiss Insurance, because we're talking about Brad Holmes, drafting the right players. What about drafting the right insurance, like Swiss Insurance? And they can protect you like the Lions offensive line. Email Swiss Insurance today, mark@swissins.com, or contact them at www.swissins.com.
At work and at home, we're there with smarter security solutions. Featuring complete automation with customized alerts and more. For over 90 years, we've been the company that's been counted on to protect what matters most, all with personalized service and care. Right now, for a limited time, receive a free video device plus free installation with a new home system. Guardian Alarm. We protect Michigan.
Get a shot up. This is for the win. All of Detroit's sports teams live on Woodward. All of Detroit's sports coverage lives on Woodward Sports. Driving the best in Detroit sports coverage.
Welcome back to the Morning Woodward Show at woodwardsports.com. Thanks so much for checking out the show. If you are listening via podcast, be sure to download and leave a 5-star review. If you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. And if you're watching on the website, check out all that we have going on at woodwardsports.com. And follow us while you're at it at Woodward Sports on all social media.
We're back here going into almost the second hour of the Morning Woodward Show on Woodward Sports Network. Don't be afraid, by the way, to call in 313-552-6322. Talk about Lions, talk about the Pistons, draft lottery, whatever's on your mind, call us up. We'll be happy to talk to you. But before we went to break, we read the question, and this was from Greg Hartman. Who do you guys think will be the best rookie for us this season? I guess you can also rephrase that. It's probably the most impact day one. And just to answer that, I think, in my opinion, impact day one, that's a tough one because I think it's an argument between Jahmyr, Jack, and Sam Laporta. We're talking day one. I think those guys are going to see plenty of time day one. Brian Branch, I think, could be the best player. Hendon could be a really good quarterback, but we're talking day one. I would lean Sam Laporta. Ooh. Because without Jamison Williams, I think with Sam Laporta and what they can use him, at least as a receiver too, because his route running's superb. I know Matt's been at training camp. Mm-hmm. You checked, or not training camp, but all the rookie mini camp. You checked it out. Sam Laporta was cooking. He was cooking, and he cooked Jack Campbell a couple times.
Technically, that was, if we want to talk about day one and their first day playing with the Lions, that was day one, and he was the breakout star across the board on every single report.
See, and that's the big thing, Sam. I'm going to lean Sam Laporta here. I think Jahmyr could make a significant impact, but again, he's sharing a backfield. Sam Laporta walks in day one as your best tight end.
He absolutely does. But Jack Campbell walks in day one as your best linebacker.
Good point.
And that's, I think, the reason why we like, or at least understand both of the picks from Iowa, just for the record. I think it's Jack Campbell. Because when I say that Jack Campbell is going to walk in on day one and be the best linebacker on the team, people, I think sometimes I'm a little bit too flippant at what Malcolm Rodriguez was as a rookie, which was one of the best rookie linebackers in the NFL, and that Alex Anzalone at the very least had a damn good season, especially for Alex Anzalone. But I think Jack Campbell is going to go in and be better than both of them. I could see him being a guy that is maybe top 15 in the entire NFL in tackles on year one, a guy who maybe gets 115 to 120. On a team that really needs help at linebacker. There is going to be no question that he is going to start day one and he's going to get a lot of opportunities. When it comes to Sam Laporta, a lot of it depends on how many times he gets plays designed for him, how many times Jared Goff throws him the ball. You can do everything right and still not get the ball.
True.
And to be honest, at the end of last year, I'm not saying the Lions want to do it this year again. They were tight end by committee, and as much as we don't love Brock Wright, James Mitchell, and Shane Zylstra as individuals, as a committee, they did play well. So I don't think Sam Laporta is going to get enough targets, although I do think he's going to be an effective player, and I do think he's more of an offensive weapon than even a tight end. The dude runs a faster 40 than Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah.
That's just facts.
And by the way, well said, Sam, by the way, because I didn't even think about that for Jack Campbell. Kid Keith says, Laporta might actually be the Hawkinson we wanted in Hawkinson. Very true, Kid Keith. But JB, what say you? Jack Campbell, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, who makes the most impact day one?
I got to go with Sam Laporta on this one, although I'm really interested to see what Ben Johnson does with Jahmyr Gibbs and also Antoine Green, the wide receiver as well too.
Sleeper.
Like, it's just interesting. I really want to see what he does with that, but I think it's going to be Sam Laporta. Just as the commenter said in our Woodward Sports chat, this could be the TJ Hawkinson that we really wanted and needed on this team as well too. This is going to be Jared Goff's safety valve when he sees too much pressure coming his way, and Laporta's just going to be right there to carry us and muscle us through to another first down. This is going to be fun. It's going to be a fun season.
So we got 2 for Laporta, 1 for Campbell. Gabby?
I'm going with Laporta.
Laporta?
For what I said. I think day one has already happened. I think he's been the breakout star. I think he's going into a much better situation than he was at in Iowa.
Say that again.
And, you know, he made it work there for what he could do with what he was given. And now you surround him with those key pieces on the Lions, and he's going to thrive.
And and I love, obviously, everybody chiming in here, and you see it right now with the poll. Who makes the most impact day one? 121 votes. 40% say Jack Campbell, 30% Sam Laporta, 30% Jahmyr Gibbs. Very, very evenly spread out across the board, but Jack Campbell takes the nod because, to your point, Jack Campbell doesn't need any targets. He's going to be targeting people with his physicality. He doesn't have to wait for the ball. He has to go chase the ball. So, to your point, you can make an argument for sure, but Sam Laporta, guy's a stud, a secured stud. But Jack Campbell won the poll, Sam, so you're making some great points.
Oh, I appreciate that. I'm glad that people agree with me. And the thing is, Jack Campbell, I think one of his greatest strengths this year, and it's not sexy, it's not flashy, he's going to be the guy that tackles the running back for a gain of 3 instead of a gain of 7 or 8. And obviously that doesn't move the needle as much, but it's very, very important because if you let teams gash you on the ground, like, say, the Carolina Panthers did last year, and even to some extent the Seattle Seahawks, who we forget, Rashad Penny rushed for 151 yards on 17 carries in that game. I think Jack Campbell will be an enormous help with that. And he was also very, very good in coverage, at least in college. We'll see how that translates to the NFL. But Jack Campbell just has a nose for the football. And I'm not saying that's going to translate into him being the franchise linebacker, but I think this year he's at least going to be effective and put up gaudy tackle numbers in a similar light to what Leighton Vander Esch did as a rookie for the Cowboys. I'm not saying he's going to be rookie Leighton Vander Esch, but
you expect an 18th overall pick to be impactful immediately.
At some point he has to be, in order for this to be successful, for me to be like the Demario Davis, the Roquan Smith of this defense. I'm not saying he's going to be Roquan Smith. I'm just saying you're a franchise linebacker. You know what? I'll relate it to back at home. He has to have, at the very least, a career that Chris Spielman had back in the day.
It's fair. Yeah, Chris Spielman. Actually, similar type of dudes, too. Like, they're both just football players. And you see that with, excuse me, with Jack Campbell. Paul Thomas says, I just can't pick a tight end as the biggest impact. Gibbs spreads the offense. That's a great point, too. JB, we got a call. You can send him through.
Yep, I will send you guys Tori right now.
You said, what was the name? Sorry.
Tori,
welcome to the show. What do you want to discuss?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
What's going on, my man?
Not a thing. I was calling because I watch you guys every morning, for one.
Oh, appreciate that.
Oh, for sure. Second thing is, everyone keeps comparing Gibbs to Kamara and what's his name, McCaffrey.
Yep.
But to me, his best comp is Deebo Samuel because of how far you could flex him out, his route tree, how hard he can run out the backfield. So to me, that's his best comparison. Also, I lost my voice on that pick because I wanted him so bad.
Well,
my last point is, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead. I'll let you finish.
My last point is Troy Weaver sucked. Other than that, we.
Oh,
come on,
damn,
Tori. I was with you, man. I was with you. Okay, well, that's fair. What are you basing that off of? Because the Pistons fell in the draft?
No, man, it's not even that they fell. It's that all the tanking is disgusting, especially for a city like Detroit. People already look at us like losers around the nation. So to keep lining up a team and to keep losing on purpose, and then to promote the coach who was losing to a better job and give him a retirement package. That's why David Stern gave him the 5th pick, because he's not going to keep rewarding the tanking just over and over and over again.
I'll tell you what, man. I was one of those people that, and you know what? I'm not in the I hate like Troy Weaver sucks camp necessarily, but what did Dwayne Casey do to deserve a front office position? I've always wondered that. I'm kind of more with Adam on that one.
He tanked. He cost himself to end his career. He knew that he would never get another coaching job. He went into that agreement with Troy Weaver. Okay, I'll go ahead and I'll keep tanking as long as you sweeten me up at the end. And that's what they did.
Well, you know what, Tori?
And when Silver saw that, he said, "There's no way I'm rewarding you guys, and you're going to get a guy a job." It would have been different if you just fired him. You moved him into the upper office and gave him a retirement package.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, the biggest knock on Dwayne Casey wasn't developing players, but it was his X's and O's, right? Correct?
Correct. And he loses players. He always loses the locker room. That's why they kicked him out of Toronto.
Well, if his biggest weakness is X's and O's, at least in a front office position, there ain't no X's and O's there. It's just strictly, evaluating talent. So at least you don't have him on the court making plays for you. All right, Dwayne Casey, that's at least a positive I can find in it. But to your first point about Jahmyr Gibbs, I actually agree with Deebo Samuel. I think there's a lot of upside with Jahmyr as a receiver. That's why I hate when people just strictly say, well, you took a running back at 12. True, but you would agree, Tori, that he's not just a running back. The guy's a complete offensive weapon. You can utilize him in a lot of different ways. And to me, you can make an argument he's worth definitely around that range of being a pick 12.
Yeah, another thing people don't take into account is Brad Holmes said out his own mouth that the first time he saw Gibbs was at the Texas-Alabama game. So he had a chance to see Beydoun, and he had a chance to see Gibbs. He had a chance to draft Beydoun, and he chose Gibbs. And not only did he get Gibbs, but he got an extra pick to get the player that he wanted. So that's the credit he should be getting.
Yes, spot on, Tori. Appreciate the call, man. You're welcome back anytime. Dropping facts.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'll be calling back in.
Yes, sir. Take care.
Here's the thing. I know a lot of people say Deebo Samuel. Here's where I push back a little bit. Deebo Samuel is a wide receiver who just happens to get carries out of the backfield. Last season, he carried the ball 42 times for 232 yards.
Yeah.
That Jahmyr Gibbs is obviously going to be asked to carry more of a workload out of the backfield as a runner. And I get it. If Jahmyr Gibbs becomes Deebo Samuel, that would be phenomenal, even if he carries the ball that little, if he produces as a receiver that Deebo Samuel did. But Jahmyr Gibbs is more of a running back.
Yeah,
Deebo Samuel's a receiver.
And I guess if you look at it like that, you're absolutely correct. I think what Tori was trying to say is more of, he's got the receiving upside of someone like Deebo, maybe not 1,500 yards. The guy's ridiculous. But you're right about Elvin and Christian. That's the area you want Jahmyr in. But he is much faster than those guys. 4.36 reportedly he's running, like 4.3s. So he's got the speed. He's got the home run hitting ability. You just hope he stays healthy.
Yeah,
that's the biggest thing, Sam. I know he tweaked his ankle. I know that was reported, but regardless, as long as he's healthy, he's gonna be a hell of a player.
Well, he can't be less healthy than DeAndre Swift was.
You know what? That's a very, very fair point. But speaking of getting healthy, you got to stay in the gym, Sam. You got to make sure you're in shape. Jahmyr's gonna have to do it. Tell him about why Jahmyr should check out Planet Fitness.
I'll tell you what, I'm Jahmyr Gibbs should absolutely check out Planet Fitness. And what Planet Fitness is doing for high schoolers is just phenomenal. Planet Fitness is thrilled to allow high schoolers ages 14 through 19 in the United States and Canada to work out for free all summer long from May 15th through August 31st. Teens can register beginning May 1st and officially gain access to the club on May 15th, with registration open during the summer months through August 31st. Plus, we're giving away $200,000 to high schoolers and students. Planet Fitness's teens ages 14 through 19 who register for the high school summer pass can help win a scholarship for their school and participate in a TikTok video contest for a chance to win academic scholarships. And for all the rest of us, Planet Fitness has memberships starting at only $10 a month, or you can upgrade to the Black Card to get for $24.99 a month to get even more amenities. It's Planet Fitness, where your fitness is essential.
Ooh. By now you know me, Christina Gennari, as the obvious choice in real estate. And you know my website, soldchristina.com, as your #1 resource for buying or selling your home. Myself, along with my amazing staff, pride ourselves on making your home buying and selling experience a relaxing and easy one. Come see why we are the obvious choice. Christina Gennari at soldchristina.com, the obvious choice in real estate.
We don't like to brag that we are the toughest sports network in Detroit, but we do have a guy named Darren McCarty on our side.
Lemieux and McCarty, who've had a good knockdown drag up. There they go, right on the whistle. They were talking to one another.
Woodward Sports.
Welcome back to the Morning Woodward Show at woodwardsports.com. Be sure to check out our other shows throughout the day, Monday through Friday. We have us at 8 a.m. and then Big D Energy at 11, Ermanni and Edwards with Maz at 2, and the Heavyweights at 5. You can check us out on all social media at Woodward Sports. Be sure to subscribe and like on YouTube and download the podcast and leave a 5-star review.
Here we are, almost into the second hour, Morning Woodward Show on woodwardsports.com. Sam Flannel filling in for Adam Beydoun, who's out today. He's not feeling well, but again, what's new? It's Thursday. Thursday morning. Welcome to the show. If you're tuning in, woodwardsports.com or on YouTube, just hit subscribe, support the channel as usual, and like the stream as well. I want to get into this Dalvin Cook stuff. We waited. I've kind of built it up for a little bit. If you guys have checked out Vikings Twitter and you look at their banner, their background, there's a player that's missing. It's Dalvin Cook. But you know who they didn't miss? Alexander Madison, who's on there, okay? Yes. Who's also plays the same position as Dalvin Cook, and Dalvin Cook's much better. We don't know Dalvin's future because, at this point, the Vikings are going to have to make a tough decision. They already traded Zadarius Smith. They can't afford him. Dalvin Cook might be the next one out. I'd have to check out the financial numbers, if what they'd save cutting him versus if they kept him. If I'm the Vikings, I'm just eating it and keeping him because, again, if you cut Dalvin Cook, you've already cut. I mean, the defense isn't anything special. We know them for what they have offensively. It takes a big hit to the Vikings. And I still believe the Vikings are the second-best team, but I'm holding on by a thread, Sam. The Vikings are the second-best team, but the margin between them and maybe the Packers or the Bears, it's getting very, very slim.
You're sounding a little less confident about those Minnesota Vikings there, eh?
Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't think they'd win 13, but I thought minimum they could win 8-9 games.
Well, Dalvin Cook, I know he's a running back, and I know there's question about how much they want to pay him, but Dalvin Cook has had 4 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. Dalvin Cook has been their second-best offensive player throughout the duration of Justin Jefferson's career. And Alexander Madison, I know we talk about him as a good backup, a very, very capable number 2 running back. His career high in rushing yards for a season is 491. And I don't see a lot of depth on that in that running back room for the Minnesota Vikings. I see Alexander Madison. I see Ty Chandler. Sounds a little bit bleak, and it's not just Dalvin Cook. They lost Eric Kendricks. They lost Patrick Peterson, and they just traded Zadarius Smith, who is coming off of a 10-sack season. And they and one of the guys they got, Marcus Davenport, I know a guy that you think is a somewhat capable replacement. You know how many sacks he had last year?
Mm-hmm.
A half.
Wow.
Half sack.
What about the year before?
He had 9. That's fair.
But you're right. The information's the information. Last year, he only had half a sack. And I want to read some of the context for this old Dalvin Cook stuff. And this is per Pro Football Talk, by the way. They wrote an article on it. They write, It's a strange situation. The Vikings don't want to pay Cook $10.4 million this year. They'd clearly like to trade him, but they haven't found a trade partner yet, which, again, if you're an opposing team, you're just waiting till he gets released. I don't think you're trying to trade for Delvin. And again, they also write in this article, it seems unlikely that they will. No one is assuming Cook's salary. A new team would want him to redo the deal. Why would Cook redo the deal when he could just hold firm and be released? They write, the Vikings have two problems when they cut him. First, who will replace him? Alexander Madison is solid, but he's not a home run hitter. They currently do not have somebody that can do what Cook does. So that's kind of the big one, too. If I'm the Vikings, and you know what the Vikings with Kirk Cousins, what's their ceiling? I mean, maybe a playoff win last year. Like, I don't think the Vikings, I called them frauds since the beginning. I think you agreed they were frauds since the very beginning as well. I don't know if you were higher on the Vikings last year.
Arguably the most fraudulent team in NFL history.
Okay, there you go. It reminded me of the Steelers back a couple years ago when they were 11-0. And even then, you're like, is this real? Like, are they this good or are they just fraudulent? And then you saw them play Baker. The rest was history. So the Vikings,
you mean Nick Chubb and that running game. I think that had a lot to do with it too.
No, it was a shot at them. I mean, he lost to Baker Mayfield, but yes, Nick Chubb. He played a ridiculous game as well. But about the Vikings, I want to go to you, Sam Flannel, because I've already talked about where I have them. I think the division goes Lions, Vikings, Packers, and Bears very closely, but I think the Packers as an overall roster is slightly better, and I like Matt LaFleur more than I like Eberflus. So I'm going to lean Packers, but I got the Vikings 2 right now, but they're holding on by a thread. What's your NFC North ranking this year? What do you have?
I mean, Lions 1. This is so tough because I think they could all be 9-win teams, but there's also a couple that could be 5 or 6. I would probably, you know what? I'm going to go Packers 2. And here's why. We obviously know that Jordan Love, he's an unknown. He might be terrible. He might have sat on the bench and just for a reason, and might have been very, very warranted why he never got a chance. He might suck, or he might be good, but they have 2 good running backs, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. They've got a couple up-and-coming receivers in Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson. They've got some defensive pieces, Devondre Campbell, Rashawn Gary, Jair Alexander, Stokes, Kenny Clark. That's a pretty good roster, and if Jordan Love doesn't fall on his face, if he's just competent, I think they can win a decent amount of games. You know what? I'm calling it. Vikings are finishing last in this division.
Are you serious?
The Chicago Bears are finishing higher than the Minnesota Vikings.
It has to be the chair, because Adam Beydoun said the same thing, and I don't see how a team. I mean, listen, the Vikings, they got Brian Flores, which I think by default their defense will be a little better. Because
can't get any worse.
Can't get any worse. Great point. But Brian Flores, I think he's a great defensive coordinator. Great head coach, but really good defensive mind. So I think their defense will improve. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. That offense, I mean, Adam Thielen, more proven, but Adam Thielen, even at 32 years old, Jordan Addison, I think, will be a good player. I like Jordan Addison a lot. So if you get those two, KJ Osborne, TJ Hawkinson, if they keep Calvin or they release him, I think they should keep him. With Kirk Cousins, think what you want about Kirk Cousins. That's a pretty good offense, Sam Flannel.
But I don't think their defense is going to stop a nosebleed. They had a worse defense last year statistically than the Detroit Lions. And they lost Eric Kendricks. They lost Patrick Peterson. They lost Zadarius Smith. And they lost, what's his name?
They got Eric Kendricks. They lost Eric Kendricks as well.
I did lose Eric Kendricks.
They lost Patrick Peterson as well.
Yeah, Patrick Peterson.
So again, they had some defensive starters leave, which is true. But again, I still think the Vikings, I still have them number 2, but JB, send the caller through.
All right, I will send you guys Cordell, who was calling from San Antonio, actually.
Cordell from San Antonio, number 1 overall pick, home of Victor Wembanyama. Welcome to the show, my man. What do you want to discuss?
Hey, I got 2 things I want to say, but good morning to you guys. I listen to you every day. I love it. First thing I want to say is about a couple of weeks ago, Sam Flannel liked to talk a lot about how we will be able to keep the offense afloat without Jameson Williams. How are we going to tread water? We had a top 5 offense without Jameson Williams, so I'm not worried about that. But number 2, I think a lot of people are missing the dot here when it comes to Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm thinking a little bit of a higher upside of a prime Theo Riddick before we started asking him to take the load on offense in terms of carrying the ball.
What do you think about that, Sam? Theo Riddick, higher upside than Theo Riddick.
Well, he better have a higher upside than Theo Riddick, obviously. But Theo Riddick, say what you want about him, he's the best pass-catching running back the Detroit Lions have had since I can remember. He just didn't do anything as a runner, and he was obviously a gadget guy, a guy that just basically turned into more of a receiver than a back. But if he becomes the receiving threat that Theo Riddick is, obviously with a ton more talent, and also gives you something as a running back, I don't necessarily hate it. Although when you're mentioning Theo Riddick in the same sentence as number 12 overall pick Jahmyr Gibbs, it scares me a tad, but I get where this caller is coming from, at least when it comes to being a receiving back only.
And by the way, thank you for calling, my man. You're welcome back anytime. Enjoy that number 1 overall pick. I don't know if you're a fan of the Spurs or not, but your city will be booming now with a lot of French media.
I'm a Cavs fan. My second team is the Pistons, so no joy here.
Well, thank you for calling. You're welcome back anytime.
You have a good morning, guys.
Yep, you too. And to his point too about Theo Riddick, like as a pass catcher, I think without J-Mo, they're gonna lean on Jameer and Sam Laporta. I think a lot. I mean, Josh Reynolds and Khalif Raymond and Marvin Jones Jr. Those guys are gonna make an impact as well. But if you got Jahmyr Gibbs, man, like you can have David Montgomery, you can have sets where David and Jahmyr are both on the field at once, and they can both be utilized. Ben Johnson is gonna have a field day with these guys, both of them.
Ben Johnson is going to have a field day with those guys. I think he'd have more of a field day if Jamison Williams hadn't gotten himself suspended, but
you're not wrong.
That's water under the bridge. Obviously, Jahmyr Gibbs, we've been talking about it. What he can provide is that explosive element while Jamison Williams is gone. I agree they're going to be on the field together in sets more often than people think. It would just be because they're both just such talented players. And obviously, Jahmyr Gibbs is so great catching the ball out of the backfield, but David Montgomery isn't a slouch either when it comes to being an all-around back.
He's a pretty good pass catcher too.
He is.
I don't think people talk. He's a bell cow back, but he's got upside at least in the passing game. Check the numbers. But JB, send the caller through. Who do we got?
All right, I will send you guys Tyler.
Tyler, welcome to the show. What do you want to discuss, my man?
So I wanted to talk about the Vikings a little bit. I personally agree with Sam about them being at the bottom. I just think Fields is a lot more dynamic. And with them losing Cook, they're not going to have the same backfield. And I just don't think Cousins is going to be as good as he was last year. Personally, I like Jordan Love being for the Packers at second. I want them to. I don't like the Packers, but I think they're going to be second with how dynamic Christian Watson is. Personally, I think they're going to be second. I don't think they have a chance at being anywhere close to second. If the Vikings go up anywhere, it'll be third place over the Bears, but I personally think Chicago is going to be better.
Well, I agree with Chicago because I think Justin Fields, to your point, much more dynamic. And when they figured out the offense last year, that Bears offense was productive. They just couldn't stop a nosebleed defensively. And they added some guys defensively. Yep. I think they'll get much better, so I agree with you there. But do you see why I'm hesitant, though, to put Jordan? Because, again, Aaron Rodgers last year, with that roster, only won 8 games. So do you see why I'm hesitant to put the Packers second right now?
Oh, absolutely. But I don't know. It's Jordan Love. I feel better about a quarterback I don't know about than Cousins, who was making simple throw errors, and he just didn't seem. He just kind of fell off near the end of the season. Like, I was surprised that they even beat Chicago at the end of the season. Obviously, they were tanking. But I honestly thought the Bears could have beat them at the end of the season. Given that game wasn't as close as it looked, it wasn't pretty either. But I don't know. The Vikings are that weird team that could be good, and you just don't trust them. Like, it's like the Chargers for me. The Chargers had a great record last year, and you still couldn't trust them to go deep in the playoffs.
No, actually, I agree with you there. I think the Vikings, no matter how many games they win, kind of like the Chargers. The Chargers going to Charger, and I think the Vikings will Viking, especially with how their roster is currently constructed. But thanks for the call, Tyler. Appreciate you, man. You're welcome back anytime.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, appreciate it. What do you think about that statement?
The Vikings, they definitely Viking from time to time. But you know what they also don't do? They also never really have those terrible bottom-out seasons. And one thing I do worry about, I'm going to mention the Bears really quick, because they're a team that I think a lot of people think are going to be better, and that's true. But one thing that concerns about me with the Bears more than anything in the world, who is going to rush the passer? They didn't really address that too much. They got the guy from Tennessee in free agency who's coming off a 7-sack season. They got a couple of defensive tackles in the draft, but that's still a weak position. They upgraded the linebacker position. They have a couple of good safeties. They have some young, albeit pretty unproven corners with talent. But that offense, though, it wasn't because of the offense that they were so bad down the stretch last year. Their defense, after they got rid of Roquan Smith and Robert Quinn, was historically bad. I mean, Justin Fields, he had a couple of games. I think he had one game where he led the offense to 32, another where he led the offense to 29, I think another 30-point game, and they lost all three. It was the defense, and the offense is going to be better with the addition of DJ Moore, a full offseason of Chase Claypool, Darnell Mooney being more in his comfortable role as not a number one receiver, and I think Cole Kmet is a damn good tight end. I just, with the Vikings, they're losing so much of their most talented defensive players, and they might lose Dalvin Cook, that on paper it appears that the Vikings should be bad, especially considering how fraudulent they were last year. But it seems like the Vikings are one of those teams that will always manage to somehow, some way, and maybe Brian Flores is going to help out a lot with that, win 7 or 8 games. So it wouldn't shock me either.
Are you coming back over here?
No,
or what?
I'm still predicting the Vikings are last. But I think 2, 3, and 4, there's going to be a bit of a logjam, and maybe the worst team in the NFC North wins 6 or 7 games, not 3 or 4.
So Booner, shout out to Booner, by the way. WoodwardSports.com says we're letting the whole quote 11-1 possession games narrative get in the way of reality. That they still have a good football team. And JB and Gabby, I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. JB, I'll start with you. Vikings, are we overrating them, underrating them? Where do you have them? What do you think? Are they last?
I don't think they're going to end up last.
I was just checking.
Even after they, cut ties with Dalvin Cook, I think Alexander Madison will still be a good running back for the team. I at least think they'll finish somewhere 2nd or 3rd. I think it's kind of a toss-up in between them and Chicago. Like I said, I've been holding strong on Chicago.
You've been on Chicago for a minute.
Yeah, they've added a lot of nice pieces, but I'm starting to come around a little bit to Green Bay, but that's only because I'm about this mentality of let's see what Jordan Love has. I mean, he's been, looked at as like the terrible backup for years to Aaron Rodgers, and now giving him a chance to fully have the reins of this offense and control the field out there. I kind of want to see what he has, although if it is going to, sway my opinion if he can't, throw a deep ball and he's just relying on the 2 best running backs he has to carry this offense. It's going to become one-dimensional, so still Packers at 4.
Oh, okay. See, there you go. See, JV, voice of reason. Gabby, you're pretty much the deciding factor here. I think the Vikings are still the second best team till proven otherwise. Sam thinks they'll be last. Adam thinks they'll be last. JB's hesitant. He doesn't think they're last. What do you think the Vikings will be?
This is so hard, and this is when this third chair is so difficult, because I sit back and I'm listening. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Oh yeah, that point makes sense. Okay, maybe I'm leaning more towards Jeff today. Maybe I'm leaning more towards Adam today. I think the safest bet is saying I'm guessing it's going to be a battle between them and Chicago. Mm-hmm. And I'm going with the Packers taking the back seat, solely for the fact of there's so much unknown with them. Yeah. So I think they're going into the season without knowing anything, the safest bet for last. But in terms of like some adds here, some takeaways there for both Minnesota and Chicago. So very unsure. I understand both of the points that you're making. If I'm going to I can't even choose because I get both of your points.
Especially the unknown thing with Jordan Love. And that's why I see where you're coming from, because with Jordan Love, it's hard for me, a guy who's only played in a handful of games, to say that, because as a roster, they're pretty good. But Sam, this same roster last year only won 8 games with Aaron Rodgers, and you're a big Aaron Rodgers guy.
And that's fair, but also Rashawn Gary missed most of the season, and Devondre Campbell missed large portions of that year, and Christian Watson, he really wasn't acclimated into the offense until later on. But I get what you're saying, but I want to address another thing. Booner is such a lightning rod, and I didn't address this initially at first. Don't let this thing like they were 11-0 in 1-score games, literally a statistical anomaly that has never happened and will never happen in the history of the NFL, and the fact that they were outscored, and the fact that they had a worse defense and a worse offense than the Lions, and the fact that they had a worse turnover differential than the Lions. The Vikings were fraudulent in the worst way, and that's why I can't pick them. They lost players off of a team that was as fraudulent as they were, and who they signed, Byron Murphy, Marcus Davenport in his half sack. Come on.
And by the way, Burn, WoodwardSports.com says Jeff, quote, bleeds purple, Iafrate. Well, listen, I'm not even trying to defend the Vikings like I'm advocate. Like, I think you guys have watched the show last season. What did I say every day we came on the show? We talked about the Vikings, they're frauds. But doesn't mean I can't give credit where it's due. The NFC North is bad, besides the Lions. So this is the Lions division to win. But Sam, you help me out here. If I need lunch, and I'm feeling seafood, maybe I need to take the stress off. Everybody telling me the Pistons stink. Where can I go?
Well, Cousins Maine Lobster is so good that I am craving it at 9:15 in the morning, and that is not a lie. And Woodward Sports is brought to you by Cousins Maine Lobster Detroit. Check out their food trucks rolling around the city, offering the tastiest lobster rolls, lobster tacos, and more. Go to cousinsmainelobster.com and search locations to find the Detroit schedule, or download the app to order ahead and earn points. It's Cousins Maine Lobster.
Big Boy Strawberry Fest has officially arrived, and we're here to show you the very best flavors of the season. Satisfy your sweet tooth with our deep-fried vanilla Oreos, strawberry hot fudge cake, and a slice of our classic strawberry pie. But that's not all. Cool off on a refreshing summer splash salad, or savor the flavors of our chicken Caesar wrap and strawberry bacon chicken wrap. And for breakfast lovers, don't miss out on our strawberry hotcakes or our mouth-watering red velvet waffle. Strawberry Fest is something for everyone. Celebrate the sweet season with us at Big Boy.
Get a shot up. This is for the win. All of Detroit's sports teams live on Woodward. All of Detroit's sports coverage lives on Woodward Sports. Driving the best in Detroit sports coverage.
Welcome back to the Morning Woodward Show. If you are looking to check out Cintron, now is the time. Get your 6-pack, the variety pack, for just $15 plus free shipping. That'll come with classic sugar-free, and cranberry. My favorite is classic. It is the best energy drink for no jitters, no preservatives, no gums. It is going to kickstart your day in the best way. Get that at drinkcintron.com/Woodward.
We're back here in the second hour of the Morning Woodward Show, woodwardsports.com. And soon, in about 10 minutes or so, Kool-Aid, a.k.a. Brandon Dent, beat reporter for Woodward Sports, covers the Detroit Pistons, will be joining us. We'll talk a little about the head coaching search, more about some prospects at 5. And I want to get into some playoff talk right now because, listen, me and Sam Flannel on the desk, you know we got to talk about the game tonight. Lakers taking on the Nuggets. But before we do that, JB, send the caller through. We'll see what's on their mind.
All right, I will send you guys John.
John, welcome to the show. What's on your mind, my man?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Just want to talk a little bit Lions ball for a minute.
All right.
Imagine the packages with Brian Branch in it, Campbell, and you have Aiden Hutchinson, who has already shown that he can go back into coverage and pick a ball off. You have Brian Branch coming up into the nickel spot. You have the safeties that we already have. We just signed 2 very good cornerbacks from 2 respected teams. Like, cornerbacks are going to be sitting there all day, like, how do I throw this ball? What do I do? And then defensive line getting in. Like, just imagine that. It's almost Madden-esque. It's going to be beautiful.
Yeah, it's crazy to think, too, John, how night and day this secondary is from last season. From one of the worst secondaries in the NFL to now being you could argue it's their strength on defense. It's a complete turnaround. That's credit to Brad Holmes. But you're right. Brian Branch, even though he might not see as much time this year as he will in the future.
Oh, no, he won't, but just those packages.
But that, yeah.
Oh, God.
Oh, absolutely. Brian Branch is still going to make an impact.
Third down passing with Campbell covering him, and it's like good luck on third down. Have fun with 3rd and 8.
I'll tell you what. I don't know if it's that Madden defense that you're speaking to, and I don't know if that sounds quite as tantalizing as he's making it seem. But I'll tell you what.
But I mean, it can be real life. It can be real life.
It can.
Believe, Sam. Believe.
Here's the thing, though, and let me get back to Positive Town. We're talking about a defense that if it hits its ceiling, especially if Aiden Hutchinson turns into that dominant defensive end a la like a Watt brother or a Bosa brother or Myles Garrett, which I do think he's capable of, maybe those dreams of them being a top 5 to 10 defense will come true. I think that's a little lofty for now, but it wouldn't shock me with the next couple years. And they're definitely going to be better. They've got a lot of talent.
Yeah, no question.
Oh, yeah, and they're going to gel together and get better. Oh, yeah. Give it to the end of the year when they're gelling, they're clicking. They know when one guy looks this way or right, raises his eyebrow, like, oh, he's going to do this, so I'm going to do this, and bam. It's going to be nice.
It's all coming together. Hey, appreciate the call, man. You're welcome back anytime.
Thank you.
Yep, appreciate it. And again, you hear that. The secondary, it's crazy to just to think about that for a second, too. The secondary, you could argue, is a strength, as opposed to a year ago when it wasn't. That's good GM work by Brad Holmes.
Well, that's what happens when you sign 3 defensive backs to 3 very team-friendly contracts, all veterans, all proven players. Mm-hmm. And you get rid of a Jeff Okudah who, as much as hate to say it, was one of the biggest busts in franchise history.
And they still listen. And by the way, Jerry Jacobs, I know he's been on Twitter lately. If you follow him, he's been talking that ish. Like the confidence with Jerry Jacobs is at an all-time high. I'm excited for Jerry Jacobs too, and I think he'll make a significant impact because again, undrafted free agent. Brad Holmes brought him in. He's a pretty good player. Don't forget about Jerry Jacobs as well. The secondary, man, they got some dudes in that secondary. I want to move on to talk a little about the NBA. It's only a couple minutes, guys. We're going to only do a little NBA, and then we're going to get Kool-Aid. We'll talk more about the Pistons. Lakers and Nuggets tonight. They're down to 0-1 to the Nuggets last game. Nuggets came off hot. We were doing the lottery show. We had Spencer, Lucas, Booner, all the boys watching the game while we were doing the lottery show. Didn't get to see it, but of course they were letting me hear it from there about LeBron being down. Listen, I'm not even a Lakers fan. I defend LeBron often, me and Sam do, because I think he does deserve some respect. Although if you feel like MJ's the GOAT, that's fair. But if you don't have him number 2, I don't know what to tell you. But the Lakers tonight, Sam, even that game 2 days ago, when they went down early, Darvin Ham in the second half made adjustments, put Rui Hachimura on Jokic. Jokic struggled to score in the second half. The adjustments you saw Darvin Ham make, Lakers were in that ball game up until late in the game. LeBron James he missed that 3 to tie the game essentially, but still, AD, LeBron both had great games. AD had 40. That's your guy.
Yes.
What do you expect out of them tonight? Can we expect another AD? Maybe not 40, but can he have another great game? You believe?
Well, I mean, first off, to all the people talking about how LeBron James missed a 3, damn, now he only has 17 go-ahead shots in the last 50 seconds of playoff games. Steph Curry has 0, by the way. But anywho, that's not what we're here to talk about. Anthony Davis. There was a lot of chirping going on in the Big D Energy chat thread in that first half because Neil Nerul, as we all know, is a big Nikola Jokic fan, as am I. For the record, I think Nikola Jokic, if he wins a Finals MVP, can be thrust into certain conversations all time to where he can eventually maybe even catch a Hakeem or a Shaq. He'd still have more work to do.
I think he's the best player in the playoffs right now.
And that is 100% fair. But Anthony Davis, he had 40 and 10. And in the second half, and I know a lot of people are going to give him crap because he couldn't guard Nikola Jokic one-on-one. Who can? Nobody can.
Nobody can.
But when Rui Hachimura was the adjustment made by Darvin Ham to guard Nikola Jokic, and Anthony Davis could do what he does best and help and patrol the paint and serve as sort of a pseudo-double team from time to time.
Basically a roamer. He's just roaming around.
He's a roamer. And in the second half, too, Nikola Jokic was forced to pass. The Nuggets weren't quite as hot from 3, and the Lakers were able to make a comeback. I think the Lakers should be confident that they can win Game 2. I think Anthony Davis can give you maybe not 40 and 10, but he can play very, very well. LeBron James, despite having a few blunders in the final seconds or minute of the game, he still gave you 26, 12, and 9 efficiently. They didn't get a ton from the role players, although Austin Reeves played a good game. But the thing about the Nuggets, too, are they going to be able to duplicate what they did in the last game? What was it? Jamal Murray shot 50% from 3. Michael Porter shot 50% from 3. Nikola Jokic shot 100% from 3. They had 2 of the most random buzzer-beating shots, one to beat the shot clock, one to beat the third quarter horn, which were, I would say, more lucky than good. I think it's going to be a good game. It's obviously a must-win for the Lakers. You do not want to go down 0-2, but I'm feeling pretty confident as someone who is supporting the Lakers. I think at least one of the role players is going to really show out. Rui Hachimura also, I forgot to mention him. He played a good game as well. And I expect LeBron and AD to give you about what they did in the last game. It's the Western Conference Finals. And they're also staring down the Eastern Conference Finals, in which they could potentially be a 7 seed and get home court advantage in the finals. What more motivation is that?
Yeah, and that's the concerning part for me, because I picked the Lakers in 6 over the Nuggets. And I understand the Nuggets, you could argue the best team right now in the playoffs still. But the Western Conference Finals, it's a big stage. And the Nuggets showed up game 1. They're great at home. They had one of the best home records in the NBA. Tough place to play, especially with high altitude. The Lakers got to get back to what they do best, and that's what they are defensively. What they looked like in game 1, that wasn't... I mean, Jokic pretty much put up an NBA 2K stat line on rookie mode. I mean, what he did in game 1 was absolutely ridiculous. But, JB, before we go to break, what do you think in this series? Who'd you have before the series, and what are your thoughts on it now that a game's went by already?
Well, unfortunately, my team is out of this Western Conference series thanks to your Lakers, but...
yeah, I haven't seen that Golden State hat. I haven't seen it.
Yeah. This one, though, I'm not counting the Lakers out, especially given that fourth quarter surge that they had coming back late, where you were kind of questioning, this Lakers team, they could honestly pull this out. But I'm still rooting for Denver in this one, but I think this one will go at least 6 or 7. I just can't see Denver just completely sweeping LA. LeBron and AD, they're going to do something that, is going to have Denver questioning whether or not, all right, do we have enough to move on to the finals? So, still, give me Denver in 6.
Yeah, and again for the Nuggets, if in their finals team as they're built, they're deep. They got star power, Jamal. They got good guys on the wings, especially Michael Porter, Aaron Gordon. They got good role players that embrace the role. KCP, Bruce Brown, 2 former Pistons, by the way. But they got a good collection of guys. It's great, and it's led by a guy who I think should have won MVP, in Nikola Jokic. It's going to be a good series. I'm still going to lean Lakers. Sam, who do you have winning the series?
I still have the Lakers in 6.
And then who do you have, JB? Nuggets?
Yep, Nuggets in 6.
Okay, so again, regardless of who wins, it's going to be a long series here. But before we go to break and get back, we're going to talk to our Woodward Sports Detroit Pistons beat writer, Brandon Dent. I got to tell you about our friends over at Randy Wise and the Celebrity Golf Tour that's coming up, because, again, how would you like to see famous athletes like Jim Harbaugh, Darren McCarty, and Braylon Edwards play average Joes in golf? Thanks to Randy Wise, Automotive, and Woodward Sports, you'll be able to do just that. It's the Randy Wise Celebrity Golf Tour. Make the wise choice and pay attention to Woodward Sports for more information very, very soon.
Love Woodward Sports? Love wearing clothes? Then you should be wearing Woodward Sports clothes. Check out our full line of merch at woodwardsports.com. Just click on shop. We have all your favorite designs, like Dan Campbell kneecaps, Woodward Golf, and of course, our own logoed out merchandise. Men, women, infants, kids all love Woodward Sports. Impress your friends. Impress your boss. Impress your dog. Buy Woodward Sports merch today.
Introducing the Planet Fitness Guide to getting that post-workout glow. Step 1. What's your why? More epic energy? Better sleep? Blow off steam? Step 2. Join Planet Fitness for just $10 a month and get moving in our clean and spacious clubs. Step 3. Bask in that post-workout glow. Join Planet Fitness today for just $10 a month.
Join today at any of the 50-plus Detroit area locations.
Woodward Avenue, the first paved road in America. Woodward Sports, the first sports network born in Detroit and made for Detroit.
Introducing the Planet Fitness Guide to getting that post-workout glow. Step 1. What's your why? More epic energy? Better sleep? Blow off steam? Step 2. Join Planet Fitness for just $10 a month and get moving in our clean and spacious clubs. Step 3. Bask in that post-workout glow. Join Planet Fitness today for just $10 a month.
Join today at any of the 50-plus Detroit area locations.
Welcome back to the Morning Woodward Show at woodwardsports.com. Be sure to follow us on all social media at Woodward Sports. Download our podcast and leave a 5-star review. Check out our website for great articles and updating merchandise all the time. Great new arrivals hit the site yesterday. And if you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe.
You know what I can't believe? It's hard for me to believe. How the Miami Heat go from struggling in a play-in game to now being up 1-0 to the Boston Celtics, who made the NBA Finals last year with a bunch of undrafted free agents and Jimmy Butler.
Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, they don't usually
What
move
is going on, Sam Flannel?
Well, here the simple answer is that Jimmy Butler is having an all-time great playoff run. And I know he needs help, and Bam Adebayo has obviously been very good this playoffs too, but they've also been missing Tyler Hero. But at the same time, I think that the Boston Celtics are a little bit fraudulent. Would you agree with that, or am I off base?
You'd say the Heat. Or the Boston Celtics.
The Boston Celtics.
Yeah, especially how they played. They're just super inconsistent. Like, that's the big concern for me with the Celtics. They got all the talent. They have all the pieces. They added Malcolm Brogdon. They got better. But, like, you don't know what you're getting from them from game to game. Like, that's the concerning part. I mean, even last night, Jason Tatum at 30. They still lost.
And as I've said before, and this really, really angers me to my core, the Celtics managed to win 2 games against the 76ers in the last round, in which Jason Tatum shot less than 25% from the floor, including a game 2 in which he was 1 of 7 for 7 points. And yet Jason Tatum is going to get so much credit and so much glory because he had a great game 7, which he did. He was lucky as hell that the Celtics carried him to get to that point to where that he had to be so great in game 7. And don't get me wrong, he had one of the greatest game 7s I've ever seen. I was watching
and then
that
game 6, he had some big shots down the stretch too.
He started like 1 of 14. His
But
team
when it counted, he was there. But you're right. The first 3 quarters, he didn't make a single bucket. So by default, to your definition, he was carried. But the fourth quarter, those threes were big time.
He was great in the fourth quarter. And to go back to your Heat point, I don't think people quite comprehend this. At one point in time, they were losing to the terrible Chicago Bulls in the play-in game. They made a comeback and won. And now they stole home court, and they could make the finals. They could make the finals and get to play a 7 seed. And I know the Lakers are better than a 7 seed, but still, that is incredible. Just imagine if the Miami Heat win the title this year.
I'm not prepared mentally. And you know what's funny too? And again, the whole bubble talk. This is essentially the same 4 teams that were left in the bubble. So if you get a Lakers-Miami Heat finals matchup, what can you say about the bubble?
I'll tell you what.
Because the Miami Heat, I was told, were lucky. And now there's a season with fans, and here they are. Eric Spoelstra, Jimmy Butler. By the way, what he did last night, 6 steals. The guy put up 35, 5, 7, and 6. 6 steals. Like, he is, besides Jokic, it's him or Jimmy Butler as the best players left in the playoffs. But still, the Miami Heat, if they make the NBA Finals, I know I talk about coaching matters situationally. Eric Spoelstra is one of the best coaches. He might be the best coach situationally in the entire NBA. What he's doing with this roster, and I give a lot of credit to Jimmy Butler as well. Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, Duncan Robinson, Michigan guy.
Duncan Robinson has been a failure since basically.
Caleb Martin.
Martin.
What are we, guys? Like these are players that are undrafted. Kyle Lowry coming off the bench. Cody Zeller. Like, are you? I always bring up LeBron's year where he took Boobie Gibson to the finals. This team may not be as bad, but this team on paper, Sam, is gross. But Spoelstra and Jimmy Butler are doing big things, and Bam Adebayo. He had a pretty good game last night.
Did that 2007 team have Bam Adebayo?
They did not.
They did not. They had Anderson Varejao, Adrunas Ilgauskas, Daniel Boobie Gibson, and I think was Shannon Brown on that team.
Yeah,
yeah. Terrible.
It ain't great. And by the way, shout out to Brandon Dent, who is joining us right now, our Woodward Sports beat reporter for the Detroit Pistons. Look at this man in the chair. He's got his Woodward Pistons polo on.
Hey, had to represent.
Which, by the way, you can check out the interview that just dropped yesterday. Brandon crushed it with Cannon and Ashton. Cannon Cunningham, obviously. Go check that out. Woodward Pistons on YouTube. Great interview. Broke it down. Those guys don't really do interviews, so the fact that you got those two, fantastic. But Kool-Aid, Brandon, how you feeling this morning? 2 days now removed from the NBA lottery. What's going through your head?
Feeling a little bit better, man. The sting of getting 5, of missing out on Victor, I think that's what hurts the most, or that's what hurt the most. But this thing was always about, for me, Cade Cunningham. We kept saying that he is, honestly, the straw that stirs the drink. This pick, to me, if it wasn't Victor, was always going to be somebody to kind of augment or fit around the guys that we have here. So I'm still feeling good because I still believe in this young core of Cade Cunningham. I'm going to keep saying it. Jay Ivey, Jalen Duren. and some of the other pieces and assets that they have. You know, it's on Troy now to go out there this offseason and hey, make magic happen.
So with now reportedly Troy being, quote, open to shopping the pick if a deal's on the table, potentially being very flexible. And I know as Troy Weaver, good GMs typically do that. It's like, hey, I'm not, saying anything is official right now. If I'm staying put in picking or I'm trading the pick, in your opinion, we went through this earlier, trade up or trade out? That was the question I posed. Trade up to 3, because Portland's shopping their pick as well at 3.
Saw that.
So if you're Troy Weaver, are you more interested in trading up to 3 or trading out, meaning acquiring a proven NBA player? What side are you leaning on right now at this point? Or are you just stay put and take a player?
You know what? It's like the more and more and more that we settle into pick 5, because you ask how am I feeling now?
Yeah.
Hey, looking at more footage, more film, getting into, in depth with people like Cam Whitmore, people like Juris, it's I don't know, man. That pick 5 is actually looking kind of appetizing. If we're going to value this young core that we have, I think players like Cam Whitmore, players like Juris Walker.
Taylor Hendricks?
Like
him a lot.
I kind of like them. I don't know what the right deal is that's out there. And I know that Troy Weaver, if the right acquisition is out there like Jeremy Grant, like when they acquired Bojan Bogdanovic, I know he's going to get that. He's identified what we've needed. Every single offseason, he's gone out there and attacked it. One year we believed it was a 3-and-D wing and it was Grant. The next year we thought we needed the shooting, it was Bojan. But for me personally, I don't know if trading up a few spots in this draft is worth coming off of capital. I believe if I'm going to trade that pick, I would rather it be for somebody that's more established. And that's what makes the number 5 pick really, really interesting. It's because who's supposed to be there are players that are more mature, more established. When you're talking about a Cam Whitmore coming out of Villanova, you're talking about people who are generally coming in NBA ready. And that to me is appealing for a lineup that has to start winning kind of right away.
And I'll tell you what, we're going to go to break. When we get back, I want to ask you about the Monty Williams report. If they would have landed Victor, they would have been all in on Monty Williams. But before that, Sam, I need a haircut. Where can I go to get taken care of?
Well, I know where I get my haircut and has me always looking this good, and that is Lady Jane's, because I go to any of their amazing stylists and they all do such a great job. I do not discriminate because they're all so talented. And how would you like to win not 1 but 2 vehicles of your choice? 1 for you and 1 for your wife, your girlfriend, or your best bud? Or please, somebody get 1 for Spencer Raxter, my good friend. Get to Lady Jane's today for an award-winning haircut and automatically enter for your chance to win, courtesy of Les Stanford Buick GMC of Ferndale. Lady Jane's open 7 days a week. Walk in anytime. It's wicked awesome.
The sports marketing agency would not be who we are without great community partners like Higuera Health and Carol Zaniga.
It's an awesome opportunity to partner with your organization. Higuera Health is a comprehensive behavioral health organization. We serve children through older adults with mental health, substance use, and developmental disabilities across Western Wayne counties, and really excited to now be in downriver communities as well. Give us a call at 734-458-4601.
You have an opinion? Make sure it's seen and heard. Corner, jumper, tweet us, hop on the YouTube chat, slide in the DMS at Woodward Sports on all social media.
We're back here on the Morning Woodward Show, woodwardsports.com. If you're listening via the website, don't forget, check out the articles written by many of our talented writers, one of them being Brandon Dent, our Detroit Pistons beat reporter. And if you can't watch us live, it's okay. Spotify, Apple Music, no matter where you listen to the podcast, leave a 5-star review. And Adam will appreciate it as he's at home recovering from being sick. Sam Flannel doing a good job filling in for Adam today. Appreciate you, Sam, for doing that, by the way.
Of course, anytime.
But we are here, again, our Detroit Pistons beat writer, Brandon Dent, a.k.a. Detroit Kool-Aid. And Brandon, I got to ask you now, with the report coming out with Monty Williams,
yes, sir.
It was reported that the Pistons would have been, quote, all in on Monty if they would have landed Victor, which you see that too. Like, let's be real. The Pistons wait till after the lottery to pick a coach. I think there's some truth to that. Usually, teams like Houston, they got their guy. Now, the contenders like Milwaukee or Phoenix, they had to wait a little bit because they were in the playoffs. But regardless, what does this report mean to you? Number one, what do you think about Monty? But do you believe the report?
Look, I love Monty Williams. I think that the report is something that I don't want to believe. I'm hoping that the Pistons are just like, he's the best candidate. We're going to try our best to go out there and get the best candidate.
Yeah.
I don't believe that if we get the number 1 pick or not, that shouldn't sway how you put your organization together. Go out there and get the best, sell the best out of your organization, because if you're not at least trying that, then we can't try and sell fans on tickets at the very least. So just in terms of what I think of Monty Williams, I love him. I love him as a candidate. When I kept sitting here talking about, man, I love Willie Green, I wasn't even thinking that Monty Williams was ever going to be a possibility. And Willie Green we only talked about because of Jaron Collins. Mm-hmm. If Monty Williams is somebody that the Pistons like, go out there and get him. The report that, I believe initially that contenders, like teams that are ready to win, we're going to try and swoop in and pounce on Monty Williams right away. And that's what the reports are starting to look like. But I want to see the Pistons go out there and make their chance, man. Really state their case.
I'll tell you what, man, Kool-Aid, good. Thank you for joining us, by the way. Always good to talk to you. Monty Williams is a guy, I appreciate that. Monty Williams is a guy that I think the Pistons should still make the call to. I don't think they should just give up because they didn't get the number 1 overall pick, because Monty Williams is proven. But if the dream of Monty Williams, who I also like, isn't going to be realized, is there anybody that you like as a favorite for the next Pistons head coach?
I do. Look, I know that a lot of people are kind of either down, confused, or just a little less knowledgeable on Kevin Ollie. I like him. I like kind of the things that I've seen. But in terms of my favorites, I like what I've seen out of Charles Lee. And I really, really, really like what I've seen out of Jaron Collins. They're two kind of championship winning assistant coaches. Jaron Collins has been associated with the Warriors runs, 3 championship runs.
He was like the quarterback of that defense. Exactly. They were essentially saying he was the guru.
Yep. And they haven't been better since he was there. So that to me it matters. Now Charles Lee, he kind of carries this notion that he connects very well with players, and he has the opportunity to actually grow with this team from a younger age. He's 38. He's connecting with our players. Player development is high on his list, and I've heard he's actually a really good X's and O's guy. This is something that I said, if you're going to replace Casey, I want to see somebody who can come in and probably add a few more offensive wrinkles. So those are guys that I like. I know that a lot of people are saying, hey, look, let's get the home run. It might not be there for us in terms of a coach that's already had experience.
Right.
But with Jaron, with Charles, I believe the Pistons are going to be in good hands.
And what about the possibility? Because I've been bringing this up, and I saw James Edwards tweet this out too. The possibility that someone like Brandon Miller could fall. And I know that sounds crazy, but we kind of said this last year about Jay Nivey, because he was the best guard available, and he fell to the Pistons at 5. But you weren't sure if Sacramento was going to take him. You weren't sure if Houston was going to say, you know what, we'll take Jay Nivey. I do think there's a little bit of truth to that, because with Brandon, unlike Jay Nivey, Brandon has some off the court stuff going on, and I don't know again how much that'll affect him. I don't think it should. Do you see any scenario where potentially Brandon Miller could fall a couple spots and be there at 5 for the Detroit Pistons, or you think it's pretty much good and done? He's a top 3 pick.
No. Well, look, one, I have to do this every time. Beautiful name, like Brandon Miller. Brandon.
It's a Hooper name.
It's a Hooper.
100%.
I love you. But look, yeah, I do. We sat here last year a little bit more nervous because we pumped ourselves up. We were like, all year. Shout out Anthony Pistons Talk. He was like, look, you guys want to watch Jay Nivey. He said that to us early.
He did.
Early in the season. And when we got to draft time, we were like, okay, we're in that range to get him. And then reports came out of nowhere that Sacramento Kings wanted Jaden Ivey. And we were sitting here doing all of our coverage, doing all of our podcasts, saying we need the Kings to Kings. And when it got down to draft time, they did that. I definitely can see someone like a Brandon Miller or someone who's supposed to be there, not there, falling to us. Just the way that these things go. I believe that you're going to find some trades that happen. You're going to find some people that value a little bit more experience over the less experience of like the Thompson twins and such. Mm-hmm. So I can see that. And you're right. With the stuff going on with Brandon Miller, not that he's somebody that is directly involved, but even indirectly, it's something that the NBA with even John Morant and whatnot, right. I'm sure that teams are going to look at this and say, you know what, we can afford to kind of pass on him with the talent that's around right now. And if just one team passes on one player, you could see a Brandon Miller in Detroit thing. And I honestly, sign me up for that at 5. Sign me up.
Ryan, WoodwardSports.com, says Brandon is easily one of my favorite guests on the show. The Woodward Pistons show is just a great show with people with solid knowledge. Rod Beard is also the man, too.
Hey, that's the legend right there.
That
Rod
is
Beard. Shout out him.
Shout out. And again, appreciate it, Ryan, for all the support. Woodward Pistons, again, content. This is the season for all Pistons-related stuff, you can check that out, Woodward Pistons, on YouTube. And I want to ask you this, too. The expectations for the Pistons this season, the offseason, you could argue this is the most important offseason of Troy Weaver's tenure because of how many things that are happening at once. Top 5 pick, you got to hire a coach, you got money, like all these things that he has to work through. And you hear the stuff about Troy Weaver, right? And I'm not saying everybody's saying fire Troy, but his seat is hot. Troy's on the hot seat. Like all these things that come out, and they always bring up, well, he missed on Killian, and that's the big thing, or the 20 wins consecutive seasons. What are your thoughts on Troy Weaver's seat, the temperature of that seat, and then also how big of an offseason is it this offseason for the Pistons and Troy Weaver?
Yeah, well, look, I'll start with that last question. This offseason, we've been saying that this is going to be the most pressure-packed one for Troy Weaver. The injury to Cade Cunningham kind of compounded things. Whether it's fair or not, that doesn't matter. Time is still ticking. So for fans and a lot of the people, that seat is going to get a little bit warmer. But for what Troy Weaver is doing, I think the organization is actually appreciative of it. We know this. We've seen Tom Gores go out there and buy now 3 playoff teams during his tenure. The problem is none of those teams had depth. None of those teams had anything to look forward to in the future. None of those teams had a foundation. No young players that we could really say, you know what, this is our core. This is our foundation. Everything was very mono, very singular. It was just, hey, here's an Andre Drummond. Now put a bunch of role players around Andre Drummond. That was how things were going prior. With Troy Weaver, his job specifically was to build out a program that put a foundation here that we could depend on for years. Not run into the playoffs with Stanley Johnson and LeBron James' head, and then we're getting swept, and we're like, they tried so hard. It's like, I'm tired of that. Like, let's be real here. We like basketball. We've played basketball. We feel like we know basketball, but we hate seeing the Pistons lose, and we've been seeing it happen for a long time in various different ways. What Troy Weaver is doing, whether it does work out ultimately or not, is something a little bit different that is giving the Pistons a nice nucleus. Think about this. Previous Pistons teams, man, their front offices would be adding this number 5 pick to what? You see what I'm saying? I'm sitting here like, you know what? This is a blessing in disguise that, they fought a number 5 for this number 5 pick, that they're coming into an organization that already has Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Duren, Bojan, Burks, and some pieces that just really even haven't played together yet. Wiseman and Bagley, some former, number 2 overall picks. That's much different than if this number 5 pick was coming into Josh Smith, Andre Drummond. You know what I mean? Think about some of the past teams. So, yeah, I'm glad that this pick is one that's supposed to come in and actually augment. And I think that that's more of a testament to what Troy Weaver's trying to do. But in terms of this offseason, he has to punctuate that, and he has to get this right.
And by the way, we're going to go to break real quick. When we get back, we'll do mailbag. And by the way, get your questions prepared. Again, Brandon Dent will be joining us. Sam's got a question for him. We'll do that after the break. But before we do, let me tell you about our friends over at SMA, because the sports marketing agency helps spread awareness about mental health and substance abuse. Their new podcast, this is the S Word, helps fight the stigma about seeking help. If you or someone you know is struggling, head to thesportsma.com for more information.
It's a great day to get some Centron in your life. Okay. There it is. Centron, here we go. Gotta grab the cranberry. Oh wait, it's 2 for $4. Gotta double up with the classic as well. Centron World, baby. Centron, available at select Krogers, and if you wanna know how, go to @CentronWorld.com. You can get dope like me. You know what? Why wait? Great taste, guaranteed.
The only sports network in Detroit that starts with a W. Because we win. Woodward Sports, Detroit's winning sports network.
We're back. The closing minutes of the Morning Woodward Show here on WoodwardSports.com. Jeff Iafrate, your host for today. Sam Flannel filling in for Adam Beydoun. Shout out to Sam Flannel. And then JB in the booth as always. And we have Brandon Dent joining us, our Woodward Sports beat reporter for the Detroit Pistons. And again, guys, If you're watching on the website, check out our great articles, merchandise, so on and so forth, live scores by a lot of our talented writers, like Brandon, who's covering the Pistons. And if you're not watching live, it's all good. You check it out, Spotify, Apple Music, leave a 5-star review. And if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel and drop a like as well. I want to get in the mailbag here because I already see the questions coming in. Steve-O asks, mailbag Jeff, who do you think will be the Pistons' next head coach? I think right now the favorite's got to be Kevin Ali. At least I know that was a guy who kind of came out of nowhere. You had 3 finalists. Yeah. Kevin, again, a guy who came out of left field, but he's made it all the way down the stretch. And, I don't know. Not my preference, but again, I don't care who it is. This is Troy's decision, but my expectations do not change. Like whoever it is, it could be Brandon Dent as the Detroit Pistons head coach. You still got to contend.
My assistant.
Hey, I'll be your assistant. We'll take care of business. But they still got to contend for the play-in, in my opinion.
Yeah. You don't want to hire a coach and then after you hire a coach be like, oh, but our expectations are actually lower. That would be a disaster. And that worries me a little bit with Kevin Ali. But at the same time, someone just has to produce.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah.
Jax asked, mailbag Jeff, you and Booner sitting by Shannon Sharp at the next Lakers game? I would love to. Uncle Shay, I'll sit right next to him, watch LeBron. I have no problem with that at all. Let's see. Frank asked, mailbag, why are the Pistons the only team showing interest in Kevin Ali?
That's a good question. That's a question that I would like some answers to.
Frank, that's the question I don't want to discuss because you're kind of right. The Pistons are the only team showing interest. Again, it's not a shot at Kevin Ali, but the facts are the facts, Brandon. Is he wrong?
He's not wrong, man. That's why I'm kind of laughing at it, too. It's like when the name first came out, it was like, wait, Allen Iverson's old teammate? You know what I mean? And I forgot that it was even a UConn championship in there when I first heard his name. And you go back and you look and you're like, oh, that Kevin Ali. Yeah. And obviously, the reason why he wasn't associated with, coaching jobs for a long time is because of kind of the scandal that was going on at UConn. But he was found to be kind of just on the right side of things there later in the process, but during that time he wasn't able to coach. He did find a way to kind of go to overtime elite. He does have a connection with Troy Weaver, which I know plays into this a lot. So right now this is a basis of, does Troy Weaver see something? Is he the genius in the room? Similar to like Miami when they actually went and plucked Eric Spoelstra from out of their film room. He didn't have coaching experience prior. I'm feeling like, based on all the reports that he's the favorite, that this might be something that Troy Weaver's looking at too, that he's seeing some diamond in the rough that others might not be seeing. So,
and I love this comment. I love this comment. Zach Connor says, Ollie's been working with young men for a while, and we have a lot of young men on our team, so I'm cool with Ollie. Screw the big name, develop talent. Interesting way to look at it. Jesse Adams asked mailbag, Jeff, what's more of a dead team? Pistons, MSU football, Michigan basketball. Now with Caleb Love going back into the transfer portal, Mr. Sam Flannel.
It's a bad day for Michigan basketball. You know what? At this point, I would probably say Michigan basketball.
Wow, and that's you.
I am so livid with their direction, and I'm so livid with what Juwan Howard has done to this team. Like, it can't even be quantified. He burned down the program that John Beilein successfully built, a team that went to 2 national championship games in 5 seasons and also had a ton of first-round draft picks. And now Juwan Howard comes in, and now they're not making the tournament. And now we just better hope that Doug McDaniel and Terrace Reed have a sophomore parlay, not counting on it.
And Don,
as always, how do you not?
How do you not? Right. How do you not, Fish? And Don asked mailbag Jeff, are you able to keep it real and criticize Weaver for once? Come on, man. Can't act like he's doing a, quote, phenomenal job so far, parentheses, some good moves and some questionable bad moves. But let me say this. To say I never criticized Troy Weaver is a little bit of a stretch. I admitted that you can criticize Troy Weaver missing on Tyrese Halliburton and taking Killian Hayes. Like, there's things you can hold him accountable for. My argument is there's more positive than negative, which I'll take in any GM. A GM's going to miss. That's going to happen. Are there more positive outcomes than negative? And with trades, Brandon, correct me if I'm wrong, you're with the team, and you've been covering them, you've been neck and neck with them. He's won a majority of his trades, and he's hit on a majority of his draft picks. To me, that's a GM doing a pretty good job.
A really good job. I mean, he's not going to be perfect. He's doing exactly what we want him to do, and you have to grade this as it relates to the restoration. This offseason is the one where we actually go in and say what Troy Weaver has or hasn't done as it relates to the full picture. He has to get this offseason right to make everything before this matter.
Yeah, no question. Let's see. King Tay, mailbag. At what point does Woodward Sports trade Adham? Is he still worth the Woodward cap hit if he's never healthy? Yeah, I mean,
he is.
Adham Beydoun right now. He's got DeAndre Swift. He's got DeAndre Swift availability at this point, but he's been doing just fine. He's just been a little under the weather. No, he will not be traded. We are keeping Adham Beydoun. Too much of a cap hit. We don't want to take that cap hit. Let's see. John Lord says, mailbag, who would win in a sumo match? Juicy Jeff or Sam Flannel in sumo suits in the hair cap with the bun? I'll give that one to Sam Flannel.
You think so? I don't know.
Yeah, listen, I don't even know how to judge that. In a sumo suit, I'll give it to Sam. Why not?
I guess we're like the same. We're like the same weight class too. You're about 9 years younger than me, so maybe you've got that young man's energy, but I got like the old man strength. I don't know. We'll see.
Shot ass mailbag. If Weaver's on the hot seat, who's going to fire him if Gores is on board with Weaver's plan? I mean, it's a good point. Tom Gores believes in Troy. Obviously, he's allowed him to just work, and it's actually working. I know the wins don't represent that, but talent-wise, we had to sit through a lot of basketball for the Pistons since they went on those Eastern Conference Finals runs. A lot of mid. And I know right now they're bad, but still more upside with this core than you've had in quite some time, Brandon.
In a long time.
And that's just the facts. Michael Barr says, mailbag, how does adding more rookies give Caden Bojan hope? Well, if you don't feel like they should continue to get young, I don't actually hate that. I can see where you're coming from, especially right now. You want them to take the next step. You want a proven NBA player. I think that's fair. But also, you can't just go pick out a player you want to trade for. The other team has to make that player available. So if you can't trade for who you like, you kind of have to stay put and take a young player, whether you like it or not. It's just the situation they're currently in. Beanroyd 420 asked, mailbag, who's the greatest tight end in Lions history? Oh, God, Sam, you could take that one.
Probably Charlie Sanders,
yeah,
right?
At this point, yeah. I mean, there you go. There's the list. Sam Laporta might even make it in that conversation in a couple of years. Who knows? Let's see. Big Con says, Adham day-to-day Beydoun. I think that's kind of it's starting to sound better and better as you say it.
It's a good nickname.
You know what though? This whole Data Davis thing is just, at this point, at least when it comes to playoffs, is an absolute farce. And I'll tell you what, I don't think I didn't see your comment, Booner, about talking about how Sam Flannel can have a seat on the bench next to Anthony Davis at the Lakers game. Well, let me just ruin your narrative with the silly little things called facts. In Anthony Davis's playoff career, he has played 52 out of a possible 53 games, only missed one, averaged 26 points, 11 rebounds on 54% shooting and 33% from three. The numbers show that Anthony Davis is an excellent playoff player who elevates his game and who is more reliable in the playoffs. And oh, by the way, he was a champion as the number 2 on that 2020 Lakers team, in which he averaged 28, 10, and 4 on 57% shooting and 38% from three. So don't let those silly little things called facts get in the way of your cute little narratives. Don't let the propagandists at this network like Neil Rule and Booner and everybody else who just calls him Data Davis and street clothes and everything. That's just simply not true. What? That's just not true. And he dropped 40 and 10 in the last game. Stop it.
And this is what happens when you get him going. All right. And Mr. Ray says, AD is a hooper. Let's not pretend otherwise. Booner actually responded to you. He said that was not an AD shot at all.
Looks like an AD shot.
See, and that's the problem. Even if it is an AD shot, you know Sam's ready. He's ready to fire back at you. So you got to watch what you say, Booner. He's ready at all times. Jesse asks, more likely to get a touchdown, Laporta or St. Brown in week 1? Second question, Gabby, were you one of those FSU fans who burned Prime's jersey because he stole Travis Hunter? Okay, well, we'll start with the first one. More likely to get a TD, Sam Laporta or St. Brown in week 1? I mean, St. Brown. I mean, he's the go-to guy, and he will be. The rapport with him and Jared is going back to last season. I'll go Amon-Ra St. Brown.
I would go St. Brown. By the way, did people actually burn Deion Sanders' jersey for that?
There's a lot of people that were very, very, very upset.
That's a little... He's the best player in school history. So
hence why I did not go to that length. Also, I think he was slighted still by the fact that he wasn't a contender for the head coaching position at FSU. So I can see where it might have been a little slight to FSU, but no, not a reason to burn the jersey. And I do also have to close out that I will be rubbing my hat in Spencer's face today.
That's very fair. Yeah. Keon Coleman will be making his debut this season. Legend. asked, Jeff, do you like Hendricks at 5? Hendricks is probably my favorite prospect right now. I'm going to be honest with you at 5. Got a lot of work to do, and we'll be covering it all, Woodward Pistons, on this show as well. But I like Taylor Hendricks a lot. But that is it for today. Appreciate every single one of you for taking the time and tuning into the Morning Woodward Show. Before you leave, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. And again, just show support. If you're on WoodwardSports.com, check out the articles, the merchandise. A lot of stuff going on that website, guys. If you haven't checked it out, go do it now. And if you haven't, if you're not watching us live, it's okay. Leave a 5-star review, Spotify, Apple Music, no matter where you listen to your podcast. Your host for today, Jeff Iafrate, Sam Flannel. Again, filling in for Adam Beydoun. Thank you, Sam. Did a great job, my man.
Call me Alex Lang. I'm ready out the bullpen.
Oh, Alex Lang, baby. You know what it is. JB, Gabby, Lucas actually helping out with the TD for today. He's been crushing it. For all of us, we'll see you guys tomorrow.